It's that anywhere between like 1 and 5 people who follow me drop by while we were watching. Plus the fact that I posted it to Insta, maybe some people will come by.
Yeah.
You know what I need to do is change my Instagram link.
I feel like his name is Firefighter Joe. He looks like Joe.
Does look like Firefighter Joe.
Oh! Time out. How many minutes? 2. I'd say give him 3. Being nice.
You're being nice.
He's really suffering from
All right, yeah. So the link's actually in my Instagram now. So
I posted once about it. I can't do too much about it because I have to use my phone as my webcam. So
yeah.
oh, we got Ryan in the chat. What's up, dude?
Pink toe. What up?
Lost me. I'm back.
We're not getting started up until 9, but we're just kind of having some shenanigans for now.
Pretty much.
kind of cold in here. I think so.
There we go. Oh, there's like a delay on the phone.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of a delay on Twitch.
Yeah.
My tea. That's my tea.
Yep, it is, bud.
That's the hunt.
Nice.
And that's my.
Nice. Give me a high five. All right, there you go.
That's Woody.
Cool. Is Woody a cowboy?
That's Buzzy.
Yep, Buzzy. Like, hopefully Orion shows me all of his toys while we're doing this. Word. Well, I'm glad this is up and running. We finally got it together.
Yeah, I've already contacted my friend Jim about maybe doing an episode in the future. Because I think what he's doing with the masks is pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Yeah, so
He's still
yeah,
pumping
him,
those out. That's fucking awesome.
He made about 2,000 face shields,
Dope.
and he made all the money from selling prints. So he did post recently. You know, it's kind of having an effect on like mental health and stuff like that, and it's kind of wearing them out. But still, 2,000 masks is a lot of masks to make by hand. So.
Hell yeah. Good looks for the follows, ASAC and Pinkto. Appreciate it. If I get 8 more, I can get affiliated with Twitch. So we're on the way. Soon I'm gonna have a sub button. People can drop me those free Amazon Prime subs. Get paid.
I'm gonna be dropping my phone like 1,000,000 times tonight. So
you need something to prop that bitch up on.
I need one of those little like tripods.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Motherfucker.
I think that, you know what? There's one in the shop somewhere in the back. We never use it, so
A
take
phone
it.
one?
What, the little tripod that I use?
No, you use that phone tripod?
Normally, when I was doing my time lapses at work.
Oh, word. Nice. All right, then don't take it. That thing's just been there forever, lying around. I don't even know who left it
I
there.
know I meant to grab it on my when I went to go grab my paint stuff and I didn't. So the last couple of time lapses I've used to paint, it's been my iPad at an angle.
I might
Word.
just fold it.
Solid.
What?
Remove it.
You're ridiculous.
This is the worst. I think I got. Is it?
Don't need that alcohol though, so I can actually like really clean these. Oh, it's so annoying.
I feel like I may have alcohol wipes. No, we need alcohol.
Yeah.
Where does it say how many viewers we have currently? Like,
What?
Does it say if we have people?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, sure.
Do you remember
I
how
missed
long
that.
this is, or what the?
Nope. Didn't you leave it in the box? Or didn't your mom give it to you in the box?
I didn't leave it in the last one we were saying that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think it's 375, 18 to 29.
All right. Got a bunch of people in the chat. This is awesome. Already getting started off well.
9 minutes.
Do we? Where?
It's showing me like 7 viewers, which is pretty solid for just starting up. Honestly, since not
You
even
also gotta
starting the
count us,
podcast
too.
yet. Too bad I don't have like an intro thing to drop to really set it off.
Yeah.
I'll do a
I've been
radio.
trying to figure
I'll
that
do a radio
stuff out.
voice.
We need like a bug
Dude,
like
just
fart
make it-
noises.
Make it
Improvise it
animated
right
through Procreate.
Yeah, I'll have to find someone on Fiverr or hit up my boy that does the audio stuff and be like, yo, I need a sick intro.
We need like a sick bass riff or something.
Yeah. 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 One of my clients is a professional voice actor.
Oh,
Gee.
speaking of which, did you catch Rick and Morty this week?
I didn't watch it last night, so I'm sad.
I literally just watched it like an hour ago. So good. Probably it's upgraded to like probably my favorite one this season so far.
Damn. That's sick.
Yeah.
This is a good season too. This is a pretty fucking elite season of Rick and Morty, so it says
Yeah,
a lot.
last episode I got to rewatch because that one was just weird. Like I got it, I understood, but it's just weird.
Dude, the train one we had to watch twice. Like, and then I
Yeah.
watched the explanation and I was like, oh, I kind of see what they're doing with this, but it was very, very strange. That was like, but that's I think the sickest episode to probably pull references from for tattoos just because they cover everything. Dude, bloody guy. The guy with the bloody guy tattoo on his chest, I was like, fuck yeah, I gotta do that. I gotta do that.
Unbelievable. The ticket man is like Rip. What they call him? What was it?
Cum gutters.
Come good.
I gotta figure out this thing. I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah, figure out your phone. I'll do the radio guy voice, and we'll get this shit started up.
Oh my god, so good.
Thank you. Seems probably fine. Cheers to anyone watching. Got a little gin and lime thing going.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't have anything. I haven't made anything yet. I feel like I should.
You just have this bottle of soda that I'm not gonna.
Nice. Sick.
I might bring out the Di Serono because I had that kind of just chilling in the fridge for a while.
Do it up. Go get it. Let's go.
It's always a classic. All right, give me a sec.
I
I'll
have
just
this,
add some cranberry because
this
man,
big mug of water.
Cranberries.
Try to stay hydrated.
Yeah. Water, so crucial. To be more sustainable, I've been drinking like mostly my own well water for the past like year or so. we have these glass bottles that have like the kind of classic style traditional ceiling tops with like the metal bracket that like clamps it down. So I have like those lying all around, just like half drank here and there, and then I just refill them randomly out of the sink.
I feel like if you were to wear like a Camelback like 24/7, you'd probably be really hydrated.
Yeah, dude, that's
I feel like
probably the next level.
You'd probably just be like, you would just drink it because it's there,
It's a Shark Tank idea right there.
and you don't have to think about like going to like pick up your glass or pour another glass of water. It's just always connected to your pack.
Yeah.
You might do it. Doesn't seem like a bad idea.
Oh shit, Zoom telling me they've removed the 40-minute time limit on this meeting. I didn't know that that was even a thing. They got time limits? Seems like a bad business
Stay over
plan.
here, buddy. I have stuff that's plugged in the pot. Okay.
Pinkto says Camelback catheter combo. You just never have to go anywhere. How about even better? Just it naturally filtrates and just like reverse osmosis the water from your piss right back into your Camelback.
Or it's just like your actual piss and you just referrals it.
Issue. I keep
Yeah,
getting had this really awesome haircut.
Oh my god. That shit is crazy though, because nice. They say that if you drink any water or whatever, it's passed through at least like 6 beings before coming to you, no matter where you get it from. It's kind of
What?
strange. Yeah, dude. If you're drinking water, at one point in time, it's passed
bet.
through at least 6 people or animals before
That
it
makes
got
sense.
to your mouth. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, the glorious truths of life.
No, yeah, leave that there.
All right, here we go.
Watch out.
Once
I know, it's for this.
once Parker beats out.
Yeah. You can't drink this.
Where can we see our like who's in the
Yeah, nope.
The
back
chat.
up.
You if you look on Twitch, it comes up, but we have looks like the 3 of us plus Pinkto, Music Lover, and Bristerlick.
You should just get Megan in and tell her we're not doing it, and just do it live.
Dude, she should be here anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely she should come into the chat at least, hang out in Twitch. I'll text her right now.
Here, can you sit for me? Yeah, that's Daddy's.
Dennis, do you have headphones you can listen to it through?
Yeah, I have to get them. Why? What's up?
Can you switch it over? Because I'm getting like some secondary feedback of it playing twice. So if we're gonna,
Oh,
like,
you know what it is? Because my phone's next to the computer.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
That should be better. Better?
Yep. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, you would not. Now, are you not?
Yeah, I don't hear it anymore.
Get over here.
All right, good. Yeah.
All right. See
Buddy.
how it works here. You are now live with the TatCast with the folks from the Edge Tattoo, episode 1, New Beginnings.
Stop.
So, we've talked about doing a podcast how many times in the shop?
Oh,
We're
God,
like, we're
a
gonna
year?
do it. We'll do it next week. We'll do it this time. We waited
A while,
2 months
yeah.
through Corona isolation, 60 days of doing nothing, and now we finally did it. So
I know.
if nothing else good happens from Corona, we got this. Got the TatCast started.
Doing multiple things at once. No.
So today we're going to talk about where we started, how we got into tattooing, why, our influences in that process, like the specific ways of going through it. Obviously, you know, we know where each other have come from, but just to kind of get introduced to everybody else, and then we'll build off that a little bit, see where the conversation goes, and then we have a couple of like set topics that we can cover later. and take it for a little while. We'll probably be doing it till like at least 11, and then at the high end, like midnight tonight. So
Chance,
thank
chance
you
I
all
may have to
for.
cut a little earlier than that to put this little man to bed.
Oh,
Because he
yeah, all
won't go to bed
right,
unless
so,
I put him in bed.
so Dennis is gonna be outie when Parker has to go to sleep.
Yeah, the jobs of being a father.
All right. Well, who wants to lead off? Who's gonna give the background first?
Time is man time.
I can. Oh, if they can hear me.
Yep.
So essentially, I've been doing it 5 years now, and
Yeah.
if it wasn't for me procrastinating when I was younger, I'd probably be able to do a lot. I'd be a lot more into it. I remember getting out of college and wasn't really sure where I was going to go. And a buddy,
Super Saiyan level 1.
I know. Yep, we'll get there in a minute. So I ended up having like a really crappy job, and a buddy of mine had hit me up asking me to draw him up as a zombie, which is actually
Yes.
I kind of just drew it at work, like because I was just a valet, a lap attendant, so I kind of just sat there and would just draw.
Sick.
And so I did that one day. I gave him the picture. He had a friend. There was a kid. There was a guy he knew that actually was a tattoo artist, and he had brought the image to him, and he thought it was crazy because of how I drew it and everything, and it was all like new school, and jaw was kind of just off this way, the tongue was kind of just hanging out. It was sick. It was done very sick. This was before I even started doing like color. It was all just pencil.
Legit.
Dude saw it, wanted to meet me. I got talking to him, and he's like, you ever considered, I don't know, trying to like get into tattooing? I'm like, I thought about it. I saw my first tattoo when I was like 13. Like first tattoo getting done when I was like 13. It was a house tattoo, but it was
Nice. Same.
at the time it was my best friend's uncle who was a tattoo artist, and he like did house shops. This was 2002, 2001. But this guy my friend introduced me to, me and him kind of became friends. He kind of started showing me like how this industry is and like a whole different side of it that I've never seen before, and it ended up sparking my interest. I'm like, I could do that. I definitely do that. But I was young. I was 21. I kind of just procrastinated for a long time, like trying to make the necessary steps. I kind of wanted to just hang out and like have a good time. And I didn't end up starting an actual friendship till I was about 26, I think, something like that. I went to a shop, started an apprenticeship there. Things didn't really work out there, which kind of was a bummer. So it took me another 2 years before I made an attempt at getting another apprenticeship start over.
Damn.
Yeah. Because I was working full time, and then I was working full time for my father-in-law. So like I had to like cram it up, and I had to work twice as hard because of the fact that like, I had a big boy job, and I'm trying to do my apprenticeship. So I'd be up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, go do my full-time job from like 7 to 3:30, and then get off of work, go straight into my apprenticeship and be there until like 9, 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
This went on for like a year and a half every day, and with no day off.
I think that's that true struggle. Like a lot of people do that. My situation was very similar with like the amount of work that was required to be done just to make the time to get that intro in. And everybody has that like choice and decision to make. It's like either you have great support and someone to thank for allowing you to have the extra time to not have to work, or you really buckled down and like you worked pretty much 2 full-time jobs until you got it right.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a point where I was in a point where I was with my wife now, who at the time was my girlfriend. And we were at a point where we were getting, we wanted to settle down, we wanted to start a family, we wanted to have our stuff together. A big part of it too was I'd lost my mother back in like 2011. I think that was a big part of me going forward. So because it was just like a goal of mine just to have it done, because I like obsessed over it for a very long time. But once I finally finished my apprenticeship, I quit. I pretty much quit my job the week of my wedding. My
Oh,
full-time
shit.
job. Like quit, had
Sick
my
week.
wedding, went to like on my honeymoon. And then pretty much I was still partially in my apprenticeship, but I was pretty much my transition to a tattoo artist. And I was at that point, that was it. Like pretty much there's no turning back at that point.
You're in that stage where they're like, you can handle any tattoo that comes in that I think
Any
you can
small
handle.
tattoo.
So you'll get whatever scraps I throw you that'll be easy for you.
Pretty
And
much
then
any of those
start
clients that
making
are
some money.
difficult. Any of those clients that are difficult or they didn't want to deal with, they're like, here you go.
Tossing all the grenades.
Yeah, I got all the good ones.
Nice.
But I think honestly, I think that's kind of how it is for all apprenticeships. You always got to get the craptacular ones so you can get
Dude,
to the.
when you're an apprentice, I feel like there's no difficult clients. You're like so crazy stoked on doing whatever comes in. You're like, what do you want? The fucking most memeish Pinterest tattoo ever? I'm gonna spend my life drawing this ready.
Well, the good thing is, like, I have a lot of friends who've always been like very supportive of me drawing and stuff. So during my apprenticeship, a lot of people I knew were like, all right, I'm down, dude. Let me know when. Anytime I didn't have one, I'd have the wife come in and get like a small tattoo.
Nice.
He hates getting tattooed, but she always did.
I've seen it.
She loved me enough to actually get tattooed.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, and it's been a roller coaster. Like I've gone through a couple different shops, and I'm happy where I'm at now. Two guys hanging out,
Hell yeah.
kind of having a blast. Unfortunately, with the situation that's going on right now, I feel like we're moving backwards instead of moving forward for the most part.
Oh yeah, it's definitely getting stale. No doubt about it.
So I try to, so I mean, lately I've been trying to keep myself busy. It was funny, like my buddy who got me into the tattooing, he like the first convention I got to go to and experience like this tattoo world was the Paradise Gathering back in like 2009.
Damn, what a convention to be able to go to as well.
Yeah, I think it was
just
the
like
first
all
year.
Legit ass artists too. Like it's just all good artists.
It was the first year they did it too. I went for a day. I went for the day. And even from that, like that perspective, it was like mind blowing. I got to meet and kind of chit chat with some artists at the time. Like that, I look back, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I had a chance to talk to them.
That's sick. Yeah,
So
even that was probably still during the era of like where you pretty much to see their real like body of work, you had to like actually see them at the convention, actually look in that portfolio. It wasn't like any good piece that the artist has done is on Instagram, where like once we probably were established professionals, that's pretty much the way it's been.
Definitely. I got to meet like Guy Aitchison, Nico Hurtado, Joe Cap, Nick Baxter, like all those guys. Like when they were at their peak, and like everybody knew who they were. And it was cool. And then the following year, I got to do the artist retreat, and that was fun. Just hang out and just paint for 3 days straight.
That's badass.
And, that was enjoyable. So because I got to see all these people do multiple paintings or just work on one painting. It took them all 3 days, like back to back. It even got to the point where like the best part about it was you got to stay there. All the rooms were open through the whole night, so you can paint until like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Like it didn't matter.
That's dope. So what were the artists in particular, like if you had like let's say like 2 or 3 that like that is like the reason, like your inspiration, or like if you had anything that like hit you that hard where you were like I just want to like put out drawings until I can do shit similar to this style or this artist.
Well, growing up, I grew up, like drawing styles like a little kid, and I like doing like cartoons and stuff. That's why I like the whole new school aspect, because you can kind of do whatever you want. So like at that point in time, when it started sparking my interest, they were like Tony Sparrow. He was like a big influencer.
Legit.
Jimmy Litwalk, Joe Cap, a lot of his like new school pinups, his blood pudding set series. Realistically, like, it's at times it's like, oh dude, all these cartoon stuff, this is a lot of fun. Now, like, I still have the need to want to do new school and enjoy it, but I also like where like neo-traditional has gone at this point. I like that general style too. So I take little influences here and there and kind of do my own little twist on things. And it just depends on what I'm like in the mood to do. Like, I try to be versatile and try to do everything, but those are the two things I like focusing on a lot.
Yeah, the versatility is there too. Like when that day came along where dude comes in for that wolf portrait, and I'm like, well,
Jesus Christ.
then this is Gachu. He's about to bang that shit out. And you killed it. Like, it's definitely,
And I did it in such a short period of time too. For the fact that it was my first wolf portrait.
Hell yeah.
What?
So, but as speaking to like the connection to neo-traditional, I think that there's definitely like a big bridge there where you have like new school and neo, and like they like at one point meet and then like diversify from each other, and like in a lot of ways. And with that being said, we can use that as a transition. Let's have Bryant tell his story.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess for those watching or those that are going to watch in the future, my name's Bryant. I'm a tattooer at The Edge Tattoo. I've been tattooing for a little over 3 years now. And I started my apprenticeship back in 2015. It was a very short-lived apprenticeship that ended up being a more or less kind of like one of those scam scenarios. I did a lot of tattooing at home that I wasn't proud of, but it was kind of important as far as my upbringing goes into tattooing. Just being it was something that was kind of frowned upon, but it was also very difficult for me to not want to tattoo because I loved it so much that it was kind of like, it was either you do it, the wrong way or you don't do it at all. But eventually, over time after my apprenticeship, I ended up finding my way into a shop. I worked at Pelican Tattoo in Hartford, probably one of the oldest tattoo shops in Connecticut at this point that's still open. And I was the only tattooer there during my time there. I had been tattooing for 0 months at the time, professionally. What had happened was I got out of the apprenticeship with no paperwork, no information saying that I had any business in tattooing. So I had to kind of start from scratch. I had a part-time job, part-time and full-time, and then part-time again at Jerry's Artorama. So I would talk to all the tattooers that came in and bother them and show them where all the paint was. And I would get out of work around 6 o'clock and I would paint flash until about 2 in. And then on my days off, I went to probably every tattoo shop in Connecticut, trying to get my foot in the door again. And then I met a guy, Rick Stanton, over at Harper County Tattoo, and he told me to go to Pelican. I went to Pelican, and that was the start of it all. So, being the only tattooer there, it's probably one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Hartford, and not knowing what the hell I was doing was definitely an experience and definitely an unorthodox way to get into tattooing. But honestly, looking back, I probably wouldn't change it because it's a great story and was a great experience. And as much as we want tattooers to get into tattooing the correct way, I don't think there is one anymore. I think it's more or less tattooing itself kind of chooses who comes and who goes. And I think if you're scratching at home, but you know ultimately you're trying to do the right thing, and one day you find yourself doing the right thing, and you get good at it, you belong just as much as everybody else. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising if you look back at a lot of the, some of the greats. A lot of them started in their house.
They didn't have apprenticeships. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at it's that. Actually tattooing. I mean, I watched a lot of Andrew Stort's podcast, and he talked to a lot of these famous tattooers, Tim Hendricks and stuff like that. Those guys, they want proper apprenticeships now, but they never had them, and they all tattooed at their house, and they all ordered kits out of magazines and Spalding and Rogers, and they just started tattooing in their garage and stuff like that. So it really, I don't know. It's always going to be controversial, and I think kind of irrelevant at this point. But
I think like to some degree, obviously those guys understand like what a good apprenticeship can do for an artist and how much time it can save them. Like you can save yourself potentially 10 years or at least 5. Like you're talking about maybe 10,000 hours of work of failing, of just not doing it. And like who knows if someone's got like the mental fortitude or like maybe ignorance just to bully through that to the point that you're actually doing something halfway decent, where now they're like, despite the efforts that they put in and the skill that they had to be able to get where they are, they know that they can give that to somebody in a couple years or a 5-year period and bring them up to speed and show them all the the right ways.
And this is in no means is this saying go ahead and scratch out of your house and then you'll be a tattooer if God permits. It's more like what I'm trying to say is like there's also other things that come into play. There's dedication, there's hard work, there's actually trying to get out of your kitchen or your basement or having respect for what I find something in my life to be very sacred. As far as like more of my tattoo background, I guess specialize in traditional, neo-traditional, and I like to do Japanese, even though I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of it. But that's kind of what I do. I kind of just consider it illustrative tattooing. My tattoos have outlines. My tattoos have color. My tattoos have shading. And they're visible, and they're clean, and they're readable. And then everything else I just leave to the people that work around me, because I have no business in it. So
it's a good approach. I think I respect that a lot because it definitely allows you to buckle down on what you really want to do. And even though that means like short-term sacrifices, even just in the short time that I've known you, it's definitely, turned into what I believe is going to be a real long-term success of like having that like strength.
What was hard from the beginning, it was when you have artists that consider it like pigeonholing. You're kind of a one-trick pony, almost, like you're kind of putting yourself into a situation where you're not going to be able to make as much money because not everybody wants so Jerry Flash, and not everybody wants whatever the lady head I draw. Not everybody wants that.
How many hands are we supposed to care about?
Right, but I was in a situation in the beginning where I didn't have a family, or at least a child and wife or anything like that. I didn't have a lot of bills. I don't have a lot of responsibilities, so I was able to take the time and not worry about money, and was able to worry more about what specifically I wanted to do in tattooing, and put the rest of it on hold. And one day, what I am able to do in tattooing will be able to, what I'm hoping is we'll be able to help finance a family and help finance the future. And if that to other people or other tattooers is pigeonholing, then that's fine, because I would rather be really good at a select style of tattooing than just be mediocre at all of them. Especially, I don't need people coming in to the shop and asking me to do I don't know, a portrait of so and so when like there's like 3 other guys that can just do it better, and I would rather them be happier with the tattoo than just get it done by me because they're my client. I'd rather just have them get a better tattoo. And it's like, yeah, sure, I could learn, over time, learn how to do a portrait of a tiger or the face with the eyes and on the arm, and sure, but like
On the arm, I love it.
I just like I'm not gonna have a good time with it myself. And if you're not having fun with what you're tattooing, I don't think, even if you're a good artist, I don't think you're really gonna give your client like what they deserve. So
Hell yeah. And I think that works out so well at our shop, and like our approach is very different and very nice, where like people come in and they might be a client of somebody else, and it's like they come in with an idea and you're like, hey, I'm happy to help you with that if you really, really want me to, but that guy is probably better suited to help you out, or that lady is better to help you out.
I've done it before. I've told people that if this is what you're looking for, go to him, her, him, whatever. Or if this is what you're looking for, I can take care of it. And then if it's my clients, my clients, they'll get a bunch of traditional stuff, and then they'll be like, I really like that guy's realism or that guy's watercolor, and I'm like, talk to him, see what's up. Like I'm not going to lose that client for one tattoo,
Yeah.
from someone that works next to me,
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what it does is, as long as you're not leaving the shop and going somewhere else, I don't care. So get taken care of
That
it.
and that's the best thing I feel like is when you have those clients who essentially come back and they're dedicated to like want to come back and get tattooed by you. Like honestly, that's starting to hit me more recent. Like thinking about it and like looking back, I'm like, man, I've had this client come back to me multiple times. Like, I've had clients come back to me since my apprenticeship days that weren't actually friends of mine that have become friends of mine. And it's like, having people come in, they ask, are you able to do this? I'm like, well, I got, this guy can do that. I can do this. And depending on how you want to go about it, it's not really a big deal. But I enjoy the fact that like I'm looking back at it, I'm like, I really enjoy the fact that I actually have a pretty good clientele now after so many years. Like when you first start off, you feel like you're never going to get that clientele, at least for me anyway. I just felt like it's going to take me forever to get, a good clientele. And, I'm 5 years in and I'm pretty straight right now.
Yeah. Especially because of the sheer amount of tattooers as well.
True.
The amount of tattooers that are in Connecticut in a very small area, and there's a lot of tattooers that are, you looking at their work, it's, mediocre at best sometimes, and then that lowers the standards of clients. That just lowers what people consider to be a good tattoo. And sometimes it's hard to build a clientele even if you're a good tattooer, just because there's so many tattooers that people are finding people that at a shop next door to them, versus driving the extra 20 minutes to go to someone they really actually wanted to go to, and they're just okay with that work because it's good enough and it's close and convenient. And then people, like, Dennis is saying, 5 years in and, a good tattooer, finally getting the clientele that he wants, just imagine the clientele we could get if these tattooers didn't exist, and people were willing to drive to actual people that they thought were good. Our prices aren't any different. We're not any different than these other guys. It's just convenience. Tattooing is like a thing now. So,
yeah, it's always interesting to analyze that, like that decision making process that happens there with like the locality, versus quality and price and what people go for. And obviously, like, yeah, as you do tattoos on people, that's your biggest chance to gain a clientele. And it's like there's nothing better than having somebody come back after you've already tattooed them for something else, despite if the style's the same, if the style's different, whatever. It's just that is the ultimate I don't know what word I'm searching for here. Validation. Yeah, that's the ultimate validation. It's because it's in the eyes of the client. Like that you've given them something that they really love and respect. And I think in the end of the day, anyone that's taking this seriously that's exactly their goal.
Right. And as far as people coming back, it's like of course, I mean that's how we operate. That's how I make a living. I'm relying on people to come back to me. Um, but I mean, I've had clients that have gone to other tattooers to collect tattoos from other tattooers, and like at first, yeah, sometimes it's like scary as shit, and they're like, "Oh man, that dude's good." Like they're never coming back, and then they come back, and you're like, "Oh man, I thought I lost you for a second." And it's like it happens all the time, but they're like, "Oh no, I just wanted to get this one tattoo from this guy, really good work," and it's like I like his work too. I want to get tattooed by him, So I don't know. It's weird, but it's definitely rewarding. And during this whole thing that's been going on, like I've realized, even though if my clientele is small in numbers, they're like really good people. I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from my clients during this time, and a lot of support, a lot of deposits, a lot of people donated to my raffle, and a lot of people are just. I mean, I've had clients reach out and say like, "Hey, if you need a meal, just you can hit us up."
That's sick.
So it's not always like
Pretty
the quantity of the clients; it's also the quality of the clients. Because I'd rather have one client come back 10 times than have 10 different people that I don't know or trust or something like that. So,
I agree. And I think that speaks to, what you're doing for the clients. And obviously, like how you're saying you're taking the things that you're doing very seriously so they understand that, and then you're able to pull off, getting those clients that are really going to be there for you under all situations. My kids are wilding out right now. Oh no. The little man's upset.
Uh-oh.
Or should I say the big man, the one that actually runs the show over here?
We've only got one of those.
Yeah, you guys are lucky, dude. The second one is it's so much more attrition. I'm telling you right now. Like Corona time with 2 kids, man. I clean the same mess like 4 times a day. And it's not a small mess. It's like a global mess across the living room and both bedrooms, like all play areas. And I'm doing the same thing. Like I've gotten real good at it, but holy fuck, the things that I could have gotten done if I had that time. It's like
I'll say this much. Because of this, we've kept this house as clean as we can. Like,
nice.
Even with having him, we've still managed to keep this house pretty clean. I'm actually
Nice.
caught up on my laundry.
Oh, dude, that's an epic
we've had like
achievement,
piles
man.
and piles of clothes because it's just so hard to keep track of it when we're working 2 full-time jobs and then taking care of a child at the same time. So it's like, oh, Brian, just be glad you don't have a kid just yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it.
Don't get me wrong. I love my son, and he's my world. So
best thing ever. But
and the time is right. When the time is right,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Brian can adopt me, says Bong Yolo. Yeah, buddy.
But I get, digressing back to the topic, the beginnings. Just I feel like these conversations can just drift into Corona so fast, and it's
yeah.
I could sit here and talk about like
we'll steer away. We're coming back to Corona later, but we'll steer away for a moment. I can go over like where I came up and came from if you think you've covered what you'd want to. Tattooing is something that has been like in my family since I was 5-6 years old. The first tattoos I've ever saw done were the first tattoos that the Edge Tattoo has ever put out, pretty much, and they happened in my kitchen at my house. It was my uncle tattooing, my dad eventually tattooing once he learned a little bit from my uncle during the 90s biker days. This is 1995, 1994 area. And like one of the earliest memories I probably have in the house is seeing that happening, with the kitchen table moved over, the area like made accessible to who knows what the setup was. This guy's getting a big ass cross tattooed on his back, probably the same cross I have on my back, Tupac cross, what up? And and then time went on. I was like raised in tattoo shops. I got to watch so many amazing artists through the time that I was in them. one particular that eventually was my mentor and taught me how to tattoo, John Hens, who works at and runs Mammoth Ink in Connecticut, in Washington, Connecticut now is where the shop is. Um, he was the biggest influence. Other people, like a graphic artist, and comes from an epic family of artists. Mark Bodie, son of Vaughn Bodie, the graffiti writer, comic artist from New York City. Their work is amazing, and now is like an absolutely gorgeous, crazy ass gallery in San Francisco by where his shop is, and just seeing like the things that they produced just blew my mind. Like this guy, Mark Bodie, he drew me a picture of Godzilla with a Sharpie on like a poster board type of deal.
I thought you were
In
gonna say he drew Godzilla riding a shark. I'm like, that's how you do it.
he probably, dude, he could have no problem, but this was destroying a city, and he did it in like 25 minutes, and it was just so glorious that like I'll never forget watching that process. I regret very much that I don't know where that piece of art is, and I used to have tons of his posters. And that guy was serious. Like he would make out of clay all the things that he would draw, and like just sick shit. And I had the opportunity to just like sit and watch a lot of these artists work in Connecticut in various locations. There was South Windsor. Then I helped like as a kid to build the Enfield location. So Enfield was a thing while Massachusetts was illegal. And the going to that shop was insane. Like the amount of people coming in there. If you could imagine an entire fucking state, mostly or at least half a state filtering down into one area to get tattooed, it was that. There was like 10 tattooers full time. There was 3 piercers, 2 floors of this shit going on. It was absolutely absurd. The numbers that they do, they did weeks where they did 50% of like what we do in a year. Like the amount of work that they were putting out is insane. um, then New Haven was a thing. Eventually Pawtucket was a thing. I never really had much of a hand with the Pawtucket place, but New Haven I helped like put together. Going, still remember my dad. Like he would pick me up from school early. We would get some Big Macs and go like finding fucking random decor and stuff like that he's putting in the shops. It was super cool. And then over time, like tattooing became something that was kind of like not necessarily biker oriented, but like thought to be kind of party oriented. But what was actually happening in this period of time, like from 90s to 2000s, was like definitely the rise in like high art tattooing. So that was also happening. So there was a big difference between like the quality and the mentality of the tattooers, um, that were there. So I believe that I was always attracted towards the ones that were like really putting out like some crazy art. Another guy that influenced me a lot that I loved his art was this guy Junior, who eventually I got a tattoo from, luckily before he moved to Nevada. And um, just being able to be around that, I think there was a lot of like passive learning and like things ingrained in me, that I didn't really understand for a long time. And then later on in life, like I was kind of like had gone through some shit in my teens, and I was going to college and grinding it out and trying to evaluate philosophy, and what I wanted from life. I had a pretty high quality, high paying job that I was doing well in. Excuse me. And then I got the opportunity to buy the Edge, for my dad before it closed, which was the last one in South Windsor. And I was super arrogant, so I was like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I'll take that. I'll pay you the money. I'll pay the debt off real quick. I'll make all this money with almost no work, just kind of chilling and going to school and making money." And I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong. I had no idea what it took to like be profitable in a service business. I had no idea what it took to be able to even sustain artists as a creed and people in employment. Like it was totally different than the corporate world that I was in. So I learned a lot of hard lessons and a lot of struggles, and did a lot of extra work to make ends meet, and eventually became a piercer to get extra money on the side while I was like finishing school. And then I had some idea probably towards let's say like junior year that I was like really inspired by some of the artists who I worked with, and realizing, hey, you know, I should have been doing this for a long time. The guy that eventually taught me, when I saw him to pay for my first ever like real tattoo, was my lion on my shoulder. When I went down to see him for it, he's like, so how are you not tattooing yet? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you of anyone should have been tattooing 10 years ago. Like, you should have been tattooing as a child. You watched every day. You were obsessed with this. You would sit there at the table and watch every single part of the process. He's like, just none of us would ever look or talk to you, because if we did, then you would just like turn the other way and walk away. So he's like, we would just let you kind of do your thing, ghosting about, and not disturb you in that process, and like, you know, let me enjoy it. So that like was super cool. And then I was like, well, you know, that impacted me. And then later on, I kind of got the inkling that I was like, this might be for me. Kind of struggled out a couple of years, doing the same thing you did, Brian, where it's like, get home, make art till 2, 3 a.m., you know, just playing music, doing paintings, watching whatever videos on YouTube, like getting super inspired by like different tattoo artists. Obviously, Guy Aitchison has got a ton of free stuff on his YouTube. There's even more that was available for a while from a couple other people. Nico Hurtado and Nick Baxter also had a bunch of stuff available. Marcus Lenhard. So I would just watch their videos, Jeff Gogwe, watching them tattoo, watching any content they put out, anything I could, and like other cool shit like Tattoo Age when they put that out. That was like the shit.
Yeah.
Like I would watch that over and over. Like I've
Those
seen
are really important videos.
so many times. And Hori Smoku shit about, you know, Sailor Jerry, Ed Hardy tattooing the world, all of that, all like just doing that over and over and over and over while I made art until the art was decent. And I was getting my degree, so I knew I had a couple of years, and I had support. Like we weren't trying to like be crazy rich or live in any crazy way, so I knew I had the time and support to spend at least a couple of years trying to do it. And then like the art was getting there, so I went to him, asked for an apprenticeship, and I gave the same parameters. I was like, I'll give this another year and a half, 2 years, and if I'm not putting out tattoos that I would wear on myself, and I'm pretty strict about that. I regard myself a tattoo collector, so if I wasn't willing to, like, if I wouldn't do it on myself, then I wouldn't continue doing it on others for sure. So did that, and then it was going well, and then same thing, gained clients. Was surprised that I was gaining clients, and then just keeping on struggling with that, and then life stuff kind of slows you down. So it was much easier for me to progress when I had much more free time. After I purchased my house, we were like, set up really well. I was so stoked about going forward, feeling extra secure. And then, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, find out, you're going to be a father. So now your priorities change, your amount of time changes, the amount of things that you can do changes. So the dedication was still there, but I had to, increasingly struggle to find the time to get it done. And, also still learning the lessons of how to run a business and stay alive, doing a tattoo service with so many good artists out there, and the ability for them, they can start their own things at any point. Most of the artists that I worked with didn't really do that. They would be going to other shops to, learn from better artists or whatever, that people, something more in their style, whatever reasons that tattoo artists move around. And there's a bunch, but artists definitely are more interested in learning and seeing that like one-on-one craft. So I knew I had to keep struggling to get to the point that maybe my skills could be the things that do that, or at least bring in people who their skills could be the things that do that, to attract other artists to work. Which is why I started trying to really buckle down and retain people, and we change things, and pushing in the direction of making it so it's a lot more able to preserve and facilitate artists. And Bryant and I had many nights where we hung out till 1, 2 a.m., talking about plans of, how to get this done. How are we going to do this? What is the master plan? How can we get a 5-artist shop at least together and stay together? Because you see those shops that happens, and you're watching like Tattoo Age with, Valerie Vargas and these people that apprentice in a place and learn from some absolute beast and then stay, and they just crush it for decades. And that shit is like it's so cool to see, and that was something that I wanted to accomplish, and I think we're well on the way to doing that. So that's kind of like what my backstory is, I believe.
That's seems like it's been like a big roller coaster for you. I mean, look at the situation now you're in. I mean, you've had the shop, you've been running the shop for what, like 10 years now at this
Yep.
point?
10
You
10
know?
this October.
Yeah, like you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh,
Especially a lot of people who, a lot of young people, especially getting a business like this at your age, the age you got it at, to make
Which
it
was,
as
to be
successful.
clear, that age is 19. Like, or actually, no. So if it's 31,
not a
so
lot of people who
21.
can be that
21 was when
successful
I
at a
started with
business.
the shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
The day that I showed up, dude, here's a fucking funny ass story. I show up, I knew what the issue was in the shop for the most part. They had this manager that just was not doing good customer service, and the place was just not inviting. It had built a bad reputation just for not being like tidy and whatnot with good customer service. So, I nixed the manager right away. I didn't even do that in person. I just called the dude and I was like, "Yeah, that's it. That's a wrap. Don't worry about you can come get whatever you need to get." And I don't think he even had anything he wanted. He was kind of pissed, but regardless, I walk in. I'm walking up the day that we're opening. It's like I show up at 11 o'clock in the morning. The shop's opening at 1. I'm just waiting around for someone to show up. I don't even have a key to my own business at this point. The dude who comes in that's opening the shop opens the shop, and I just like a super creeper floating in behind him, opening the door right away. So it's that if you're putting the alarm off and a client's already in there and it's way before open, you're like, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying to eat breakfast. We open at 1 o'clock, guy. Can you come back later? He's like, yeah, we open at 1. I don't know. I was like, well, actually, I own this place now. He's like, what? And I'm like, well, I bought this shop and I'm gonna be running this business now. And the dude's
one of those
like,
things you see only in TV
Yeah.
TV shows.
The dude Tom is like, do I still have a job? I'm like, fuck yeah, you still have a job. I don't know shit about tattooing. You're the only thing that's gonna keep us alive right now. It's like, tell me everything. What do we do here? And there was a lot of artists that dealt with me with and I still had that corporate attitude. I still had really totally different practices than the tattoo world, hiring and employee relations and retention, entirely different, so I was doing things in the corporate way, and that lasted years and rubbed people the wrong way for a long time, and probably could still even, but it was a hilarious learning process. And looking back on it now, when I hang out with some of these people, it's definitely fun and funny to hear their stories about the shit they remember that I've done or said or whatever that I don't even have any recollection of. So definitely not the right way to get into it. I would highly recommend people work for somebody else that's running a good business and get by, and it would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress, and I could have been probably even more successful sooner. But
Well, I mean, I think a big part of it is a lot of shops are owned by at least a tattoo artist or a piercer, so they understand the industry. When you go into an industry like this and you have no actual knowledge of the tattoo world, it makes it that's how you're going to treat it. You're going to treat it as, all right, this is a business. That's what it is. It's not anything else other than just a business, and you're going to treat it as such. Where
you don't know that intimacy, you don't know that sacred art,
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's a big part. I think that's a big part of the difference between shops like this and shops where it's owned by people who have no idea anything about the industry, that aren't tattoo artists, that aren't piercers, and it's just it's a whole different thing.
There's people that own tattoo shops that have been in the industry for a long time and are tattooers themselves and still have no idea about the tattoo industry.
And this is also true. This is also true.
I've worked for them, so it's one of those kind of things where it's I mean, you're not completely oblivious to it. I mean, growing up in tattoo shops, being in a tattoo shop from being a small kid, to that, you still know something.
Yeah.
You still have seen
You're
it
one
when
of the lucky ones.
and
Yeah,
I've
true,
seen,
true.
seen family members doing tattoos, since a young age. Like, the industry. It's not like you've never had a tattoo before and you just showed up and you're like, yeah, I just bought this for fun. I just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
tell me about these tattoos. Like, how do we do
What
them?
are tattoos?
So I don't know. But I think it worked out. I mean, I tell people all the time, because they're like, what's your goal? Like, what's your end goal? And I'm like, I'm not owning a shop. There's no fucking way. Like, I don't know why that's every tattooer's goal is like, one day I'm going to open my own shop. Why? Why?
I think a lot of people just want to be their own
there's-
boss.
There's so many though. Like, just stop. Just like, you can be your own boss and work at a tattoo shop. Like, most shops hire you as an independent contractor. You're pretty much your own boss, and like, you do your own business, and you have like a counter person that's just asks you some questions every day, and then I don't know, like, you can be your own boss and work for somebody and have a good life, But I feel like you know, I've been back and forth from the edge like 3 times now,
Yeah.
and what brings me back to it is like, obviously, like, connection with people. Like, these are my best friends, but what also brings back is like, I know that after seeing other shops, like, I've grown as a tattooer, I've grown as a person. I know how to run my business differently now. I know how to act differently now. And I see the Edge as a shop that doesn't just, have artists come in, do their job, and then go home. Like, I feel like it's something that can become something, like,
It's
grow,
a
and
second
like,
family.
like, and people work we work very close together, and we're interested in what each other is doing, But I've been to shops where, yeah, having my own little individual cube is pretty cool, but most of the time people don't care what you're doing. There's too many artists there. There's all this drama. And then you got, microphones littered everywhere, and I'm getting in trouble for telling people to use Aquaphor. Like, it's just
shit.
one of those things where it's like, I also feel like these people that leave shops to go and they look for other opportunities and they look for other things. They may find those opportunities, sure, or they may be able to work with someone that does their style, and they might be able to help themselves out. But I think a lot of times leaving and looking at other places also makes you realize sometimes, like, yeah, I didn't need to do that. I didn't really need to make that move. But sometimes I believe that I don't like beat myself up over it, because I did learn a lot of things about the tattoo industry that I wouldn't have learned if I had just stayed put forever. Because I learned that not everyone is fantastic in the tattoo industry.
Hell yeah.
Trust me,
and it's it's a positive thing. It really is to have some experience somewhere else and realize, like, okay, I don't need that, So it wasn't all
I agree.
negative.
I mean, I've come around, to many like decisions in the process of, like, running the shop and hiring people. In the beginning, when people left, I was way more offended. I'm like, I've been getting you clients, this long, and blah blah blah. Why are you gonna go anywhere? You have a
It's-
schedule where you're gonna get raises and you're gonna be making crazy money. You're crazy to leave. But then the truth of it is, like, people have their own lives and own lessons to learn, and like judging them or saying that your decision there is bad or like whatever, like the best thing I can do is try to convince somebody and be like, hey, the door is open still upon return. So later on, if you decide that it wasn't the right fit, then it is still available. They're like, most of the people that I hire, they're not, we haven't had many issues where people leave and it's like, oh, fuck you, I never want to talk to you again. Like, I've got those, but those are mostly older, but like for the most part it's been like pretty amicable, and I'm still friends with a lot of the people that left. And even as time goes on, 3 to 5 years after they leave, when I'm seeing them at conventions and hanging out and stuff, and we're getting drinks, and then they're telling me about how things went with owning their own shops and how they have different ideas than when they did work for me, and how they do have like a newfound respect for people who are running shops, and then the things that go on and like the process of that, and the idea of like how their work is different when things are much more facilitated for them. And like I've said a million times, like, I want to run my shop the way that I'd like to be in a place if I was to
You
get a
were,
job for someone else.
if you were an employee.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
like, I try to put myself in your guys' shoes and see where that's coming from, and match like what's like fair for me to get with the business that I've created versus what
Right.
is sustainable to keeping people around, because that is what I want. I want that long-term, family bond. I want
Right.
that time that where you have, 10, 20 years working with somebody, and you're like, remember these times, and like you have all these cool memories. Same thing as like you get when you have long-term relationships or children or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
create these great valuable times and things to remember. And in the end of the, I hope at the end of life, looking back, I feel good about it. Feel great.
I think the thing with tattooers is everyone's so different in opinion. I'm known to my friends as, probably one of the most opinionated tattooers they've ever talked to. And I'm a newer tattooer. I'm 3 years in, and I had probably one of the biggest, I wouldn't say ego, because I wasn't like the greatest tattooer when I first started, but I had this idea of like tattooing being this like sentient, benevolent like being, and like you needed to treat it with like this respect. And I still do feel that way, but I was so defensive about it. Like anything that I thought was not like something that I wouldn't do, I thought it was just like, hey, you can't fucking do that. Like that's wrong, and I don't agree with you, and we're not going to fucking go on. And I realized after being in different shops and going different places and talking to different artists, all these dudes are different. Every single person has a different, one person, they'll be tattooing 20 years. So they've been in this forever, and they're just like, you know what, man, I don't care. Yeah,
Yeah.
they put chemicals in this shit, but I don't care. Like I don't care what ointment that is. It's ointment. Just put it on the skin. Like I don't care. So I'm just like, so I've had discussions with these guys, and I've sat back and I've just been like, wow, yeah, all right, I don't care. Like so it just let people do what they're doing, as long as you're not hurting people, as long as you respect what we're doing, as long as you respect what I'm doing, then like, I don't know, cheers. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, coming from like learning, my mentor had like 30 years of tattooing when I got to learn from him. So the process of trying to ask questions, he'd be like, "Well, just watch this." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I've been fucking watching you since I was like 8 years old, bro. But like I'm not picking it up. I'm asking you how the fuck you're moving your 5 mag around to get those effects in that lion, and you're like, "Well, I just do it." And I'm like, "Bro, I need to learn something here. Like, what do you think I'm doing?" So like the difficulties of trying to relate to people that have been doing it forever is it can be
It's
strange.
hard.
And then like working with different levels of tattoo artists over my career has been extremely difficult, because as I first got in, anyone that had like extreme seniority was flexing that and trying, and I'm sure like in many cases they were right and it was great, and then other times I'd be like, bro, like you cannot touch your trash with your fucking gloves off. And like
Yeah.
that became an issue, and that's one of the biggest issues that had divided me from probably one of the best veteran artists that had worked for me, going forward, before kind of like I had met you and Steve, and kind of got the thing going that we have now. So like there's many conflicts that I've had where I'm like, it's simple to me now to see the cross contamination issue that I'm presenting you with is something that you can solve with zero effort, but now you're going to grandstand that you've been doing it for so long. It's like, just change it.
Because
Like,
I mean, these guys that have been doing it for so long, they don't want somebody to tell them.
Hell no.
Like they don't want someone to tell them something. Even if it's like, even if it's like the most obvious thing that you could do. Like if you get a job somewhere and they're like, well, I know you used to do it this way, but we do things here this way. Most people would be like, well, guess I gotta do it that way now, or I don't have a job. But with tattooers, it's just like, well, fuck you, I don't need to do that. I'm gonna go do whatever, and I'm gonna touch all the trash in the land. So it's like, and there's nothing you could do about it, And like eventually, I just gave up. I was like, yeah, maybe I could put a bag on something that I don't normally put a bag on. Sure, but like if that helps us get along, or if that helps us someone feel more comfortable, then sure. Even if my opinion was like it's really not necessary, or I do this to not have to do that,
Hell
if
yeah.
that's something that shop wanted, then sure. Like,
Well, like
yes.
if you think about like machine bags, like there was a period of time where I was like pretty adamant about asking artists. I was like, you need to bag your clipboard and your machine. But then, you see different methods of like there is a way that you can work that you really don't have to use a machine bag. You can keep your machines entirely clean. Like if you work with a tray and you keep your sterile field outside of it and you're gonna like go through serious steps to do that, sure. And like you have to like learn those lessons and come to that realization.
But
But like
if you're one of
clipboard
those
cover, you need a fucking clipboard cover. If I was about to get a tattoo from an artist I'm gonna collect a tattoo from, I don't give a fuck what the deposit I gave you is. If you're not gonna use a clipboard cover, I'm Gucci. Like
yeah,
unless you're Sailor Jerry, I'm fucking good. Like if he's
yeah,
alive, you can tattoo me, no gloves, no clipboard cover, it's fine. It's like a vintage experience. But
right.
you're not that. Like
HCPAs.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
reason. There's no reason to not have a bag on your clipboard. It's one of the easiest things to do. It's very inexpensive, and it just saves you a whole lot of time. The clipboard will touch your client. Your machine won't.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those tattooers that tattoos with a machine and then puts it right down on your tray, all these dirty paper towels are all over the tray, touching your machine, and then I've been tattooed by people that put the machine down right on top of their paper towels and then proceeded to wipe my tattoo with the paper towel that the machine was touching. And then the machine just gets thrown right back in the drawer. There's no real good way of disinfecting a coil tattoo machine without
Yeah.
damaging it. So don't
You'd be
fucking-
giving it a bath.
don't tattoo machines are dirty. Just don't touch people with them. Don't touch your sterile environment. It's as easy as that.
You clean it as best you can,
But-
and
But
yeah,
I've been to these tattoo shops where it's just backwards lane. Like they'll
Hell yeah.
tell me like you have to do something, but then I see some other guy without a machine bag or trash all over his floor, or it's gross. And then I have to use like something that is just totally asinine.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, going around, like I've had the idea many time over where, there's like a lot of established, ratings, like you have Google reviews and this and that, but like you could easily make like a rating for a tattoo shop and it wouldn't take anyone that's like crazy smart to be able to look at a checklist of that would fit on one page with like 12-point font and say, this shop is safe or this shop is not safe. And those things are not covered. Even look at the picture you posted the other day from the doctor's office. Like that shit would never fly with me in my tattoo shop, and that's a fucking doctor's office. Like the potential of things going on, and then now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, what does the state really need? And especially going back with Corona, you're gonna have hair salons and nail tech, like all of these people that need to learn cross contamination. Think about the tattoo community that's been working with this for who knows how long. Yeah, forever. But like very seriously for at least we're talking 80 years now, and it's still questionable. You could still go into places and be like, yo, you're using a fucking garbage that doesn't have a foot pedal. You're using a fucking, like, you're not using a clipboard cover. Like, what are you doing?
hey, we're gonna get ready to go to bed soon.
No.
No.
Mommy.
Never.
Oh, trust me, we're going.
We're going. Okay.
Parker's
Okay.
about to weigh in.
Okay.
This is his first tat experience. He's like,
Yeah.
I've been watching my dad
First
do
podcast
podcasts since Corona
experience.
time.
All right. Relax. Go ahead and sit.
I was on the TatCast episode 1.
Yeah.
Starring.
a young
Like,
tattoo
legit.
artist.
Think about like 2 years from now, him. Like that's when I was in tattoo studios, just like sitting and fucking around, like tying my brother's shoes together under tattoo tables, like in the lobby, waiting for him to get up and bust his fucking face on like the foosball table that was there, and that happened. Like I was fucking shit up in tattoo shops
with
at
that,
like
buddy.
a super young age.
Yeah.
I didn't even really think about tattoos until I was like, in my 20s. Like I didn't really know much about them, or I was getting them since I think my first one I was 18 or 19, but I got tattooed out of the house a lot.
Thank you.
Got a lot of bad tattoos. Got a lot of tattoos I love, but tattoos that like over time didn't hold the way that they're supposed to hold. but I don't go back on them and be like, yeah, I don't want these anymore, you know. Just because I feel like their experiences, you know, like I've had friends do them, and you know, people that I love to do them. So, but like,
Yeah, it's strange
I don't-
how it can happen like that, where you have that epiphany of like it hits you. Because like even think about the whole background I gave you, and then like in my life, I was so discouraged away from it, and like put away from that thought. Like I had wanted to just manage in the tattoo shop or anything just to make money as a high school job, and my father was like, okay. My grandfather caught wind of it and was like, you can't let him do that. And if you do, you know, I'm gonna give you shit in our other businesses. And I
Yeah.
was like, and that kept me out. And then it took until I was past even when I went to see John for the tattoo and I had paid for it. It's the first tattoo I was like paying for myself, going in, hitting him up. You know, it blew my mind how much it was gonna be. I was like, fuck, it's that expensive. And then it really was a pretty good deal for what he was doing. And then like he's like, you should tattoo. And then like a year later that's ringing in my head and I'm like, you know what, I really do like to draw. I've been fucking scribbling on paper since I can remember, and I never was able to pay attention in my classes. I never took art classes, but I was always drawing, and this is probably what I should have done a long time ago. But like, it's weird how it just hits you like that, you know, all at once.
Yeah.
I think in high school, I never thought I was like good enough to actually like to be a tattoo artist. Like,
That's what I was
drew.
thinking.
You guys
You know?
would be like, you two would be fucking crushing it if you started earlier. I mean, Bryant started at a pretty quality age, but like Dennis, I would fear having to work next to you if you had another 5 years of experience. I think, like, you guys are. I think in the time that I've owned the shop, like you two are the most dedicated tattoo artists that I've worked with. So it's nice to have people in that are like so serious. And I think, you know, right now we definitely do. The shop is packed up with dedicated artists, even as casual as some people want to pretend they are about it.
Yeah.
I think,
No. Yeah.
I think,
Pretend, yeah.
I think just the fact that I had those couple of years where I'm like, this is my goal, this is what I want to achieve, this is where I want to get to, and it just stayed in the back of my mind for so long. I finally achieved it. I've like learned to kind of appreciate it more, especially the fact that
Hell yeah.
I've worked other jobs. Like, you know, this is my, like, this is it. Like, this is the job for me. This is like enjoyment. And, you
Nice.
know, I've had a lot of jobs. I've worked a lot of different jobs from when I was 19 up until I actually quit and became a tattoo artist. And a lot of it customer service jobs. You know, I've worked as a lot attendant. I've worked as a bar back at a club. I've worked gas stations. I've worked diners. I've worked for FedEx. I've worked like, I've done a lot of jobs. And I think
Hell yeah.
doing this makes me appreciate my job more and how I can constantly keep learning in this industry and keep getting better as I go.
Yeah, I mean, Brian and I, we talked on the phone the other day for a while, and one of the subjects that came up is that, you know, we're happy making art and stuff, but like what we really love to do is really tattoo. Like that is the medium of choice. That is our favorite medium. And like to be at the point where we're getting like, you know, tons of clients that are repeat clients and reference clients, and they know what we want to do as like a primary style. Like they're already coming to us for things that we super enjoy doing. um it's such an honor, and it's also such a great way to get better while you're practicing and conducting and putting out a good product. Like you're doing tattoos that are great, and then you're also progressing at the same time, and that's like such an enjoyable place to be.
Yeah. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Realistically, I didn't really know what I was going to do after I got out of high school in the first place. So I only went to college because it was what you had to do.
Yeah, and I mean it does play well for you. Like that degree, like your graphic art degree, it shows like the way that you make your digital art and like your capabilities with that, and like the and even just the interest to dig deeper. Like I'm such a like when it comes to Procreate, you know, it's like I'm scratching the surface of how it can be used, and then like you give me the good tips on how shit is like you're doing it such the hard way when you could like pre-select this area and make a fucking money gradient just like this, boom, 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 and I'm like, boom, mind blown. Like that's how you're speed coloring all your fucking references. Like I normally don't make color references for clients. You're coming in with shit and you're like, oh, it only took me 5 minutes. I'm like, how the fuck could that ever take you that 5
Yeah.
minutes?
You know what's funny is seeing that we've had this time. I've actually learned more stuff that I didn't know prior. Like
Oh,
I
shit.
know. I'm like, wow, this makes my life so much easier if I do it this way.
We're gonna need a Procreate gauntlet by Angry Pencil Studios sometime in the coming weeks.
So
I think through all this time, I've learned that I still just like drawing by hand more. I've used Procreate and tried to get, I did a couple of those paintings on it earlier on in this, and I just realized like I really just like pencil touching paper. And
Yeah,
but
especially in
it's-
the early forms. Like I think there's something much more enjoyable and like romantic to it, where you're like you get that actual
it looks
content
raw,
or contact.
it looks
Yeah.
it looks handmade. But I know I like digital art. I just feel like the feeling of the Apple Pencil against the screen is like bizarre to me. Like it has like this weird.
It's very
feeling.
analog. It's very
Yeah.
like it's
It's just
not
like-
it's not like
doesn't-
tattooing.
It doesn't make a
No.
noise. It doesn't like
Yeah.
make a line. It makes a line underneath what you're tattooing or what you're drawing on. So you're drawing on the screen, but the line is underneath the screen on like another screen. It just like it feels. I can't get used to it, but I
Yeah.
use it, and the drawings I do aren't bad. And it's convenient to do it in bed. You don't have to, draw on a surface. It's just you have the iPad.
It's funny because I guarantee anybody who actually uses an iPad right now, they can agree with me on this. That when you go back to pencil and paper, you always do very similar things that you do on the screen.
Oh no!
I do it all
when
the
you
time.
try to zoom in.
No, I've
I've
never. I've never
Please.
done that.
You've never done that, yo. Fuck
No.
you, then.
I have never
Dude,
done
I've tried to zoom in on paper
Like
like a
this, like-
motherfucker. Yo, I've tried to back it. I just hope that never happens on skin. You ever see me double tap the skin with 2 fingers? Like, just call it. Be like, yo, you're done for the day. Yeah. Oh fuck. But no, that happens on paper. That happens. I've definitely double tapped some paper and definitely zoomed. I've definitely tried to zoom on paper. Like, it's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's. Well, I mean, it takes some time, and and I still like doing physical stuff. So, like, if I want to do quick little outline drawing and then turn that into a painting, I'll do that. Otherwise, like that wood piece I did the other day, the Star Wars one, I just kind of just drew it. I don't have a printer here, so I kind of just had to just draw it like. And I did kind of almost make attempts at trying to do stupid things, but because of that, I actually have a project coming up where I'm going to be painting 2 cornhole pieces of wood.
Nice.
I'm doing I guess Civil War, except they wanted, so I'm doing 1 Iron Man, 1 Captain America.
Oh shit.
That's the
Sick.
whitest thing I've ever heard.
Cornholer.
It's custom cornhole.
I'm painting
Dude,
some cornholes.
That's sick. That's the good life right there, dude. I love that game. There's nothing better than drinking in the sun and playing cornhole. Like that's the goodness right there. That or
See,
can
I like
jam.
ladder ball.
Ladder ball? What? Over can
Yeah.
jam or cornhole? More so?
I've only really played can jam twice.
Okay.
Cornhole, I don't mind. I enjoy it, but I like ladder ball. I think out of the 3, I would go probably ladder ball, cornhole, and can jam,
Word.
like in that order.
Word. Ladder ball's solid. I haven't played it in a while, actually, to be honest.
So, but overall, I enjoy. Back to the subject. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy my job. I don't even really consider it much of a job.
I think most clients would probably be disturbed to learn that, like, if not being offered money for tattoos, we would probably still just do them for free. Maybe not for them, but like definitely for people we loved, like friends and family would definitely be getting tattooed.
Yeah, I was talking about that last night, and I mean, there's tattoos that I still do for free now, just because I want to do them or I want them for my portfolio, or maybe work's been slow, and it's
Hey,
just
I'm-
like that kind of eagerness to just do a tattoo, and you don't want to wait for someone to pay you for it. So you're just like, hey, if you get this, I'll do it for free. Like if you get, but it's got to be this, and don't say anything about it. Like if you don't want it, you don't get it. So. But.
So just to let you guys know, I'm probably gonna be out. I gotta get off in about 5 minutes. So being the one I'm the one he wants me to put in the bed all the time. So I'm the dad that has to put him in bed.
Word. Well, it's good that you have that magic.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, if you have any
other times it's us just kind of laying there for like 2 hours until he finally knocks himself out.
Word.
If you have any more input or closing thoughts or anything, feel free to have the floor.
I say, I'll say this: like, the best thing about this industry, and the best thing about this job is there's always something new to learn and to apply to your own technique and your own style and your own way. And it's something that, like, I think makes me thrive to be better. Let alone that I'm also a family man, so this job is what takes care of my family. But on a deeper note, it's just I enjoy what I do because of the fact I get to enjoy what I do. I grew up always having this thought that, like, I don't ever want to work in an office. I don't ever want to work for some corporate bullshit crap. And one of my favorite things about this industry is 99% of the time, customer is always wrong. Like, favorite thing.
You're giving them too much credit.
And the only reason I say that 1% is because a lot of times that 1% is usually another tattoo artist. And sometimes they know, but not all the time.
When I get tattooed by tattooers, obviously tattooers, I pretend as if I'm not one. I'm just like,
yeah. I mean, I
don't know what you're doing.
Put my input like that.
You're the one that you're the professional here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna complain, and I'm gonna bitch, and I'm a client. So.
Yes.
Client first, tattoo artist second.
Yeah.
Until you realize they do something wrong, then you're like, is it too late?
Trust me. I keep it in.
Yeah.
I haven't said a single thing.
Dude, you wear those mistakes. Just enjoy it. It's all part of the process, and
I don't care, man.
Like, that person as a human.
Like, people like to say that, like, I have a tattoo of myself as a cartoon character on my arm. It was probably the third tattoo I ever got. And I think when I got it the first time, people thought I was a little arrogant. I'm like, nah, it's just something I drew and I thought it was funny.
Sick. I think on that note of, like, the clients, like, you have that it's that connection, like, it's a collaboration, you know what I mean? Like, the artist is ultimately the one in charge, and it's your job to make sure you don't let the client have more control than they should. Because if you do, then you could compromise their tattoo. So, like, it's your... All right. Hey, bud, calm down. It's okay. I know, mom's coming. It's your job. It's your job to make sure that they don't compromise their own tattoo. Like, you have to be there for them. And sometimes that means, like, standing your ground on something or telling them something they might not want to hear. But if they don't respect you for that, then it's not the right fit. But almost every client is always going to respect you for that. So, like, I love the opportunity to collaborate with a client, because you, like, if I sit down to draw, sometimes I know I want to draw this. I've been dying to draw this. This is the one thing. Like, this is the opportunity. I have it now. And then other times you're getting there and you're like, what the fuck do I draw now? I want to draw. I have, like, this stuff ready and I don't know what to draw. Like, maybe that's just me, but I feel like it's a common thing, is just to have that, like, little block of, like, where do I go? What am I going to do? And then the client's, like, giving you that little bit of direction that's just perfect to be like, that's what I have to do. How do I see that? How do I feel that? How's that going to fit for them and their style, their personality? Like, what can I bring to them? And that's what you have. So, like, it's, the client's definitely would be wise to defer to your better judgment in almost every single situation. If you're going to a tattoo artist that really gives a shit, you know, if it's someone who's professional, like if it's somebody in our studio, you know, they're safe doing that and trusting that. And it's gonna, like, the artist is gonna make the right call for you. And you know, maybe clients don't even see that coming. I've gotten tattoos where I don't see that coming, even when you tattooed me, Dennis, and I was like, the size of that tattoo is absurd. I'm like, that doesn't look anything like a Zion. It's way too big. And you're like, well, you're always telling people to go bigger. It's going to be way better if it's bigger. And I'm like, you know, let's fucking do it. And it worked
It
out
fit
great. Like,
perfectly too
it's
on your leg.
perfect. Yeah, because
Oh.
it's much, like, it's got better blends. It's got better style, and that's even me. And I was deep into my career at that point, and I'm like, I don't know, man. But like, obviously you're the one doing it, so like I defer to your judgment. You have the vision, and like then it gets executed. So like when you stand in the way, and like you always run into those clients where it's like you have that one thing you're like working with or trying to get them to compromise on, and they just won't, and then you have to do it, and like, or you don't have to, you could either decline it or do it, but you know, maybe you do it under the guise in your mind, or at least in my mind most of the time, of saying like, okay, if I want to retain this person and maybe get them to get tattooed in the future, I'm going to do this. And you know, maybe they don't end up liking it, maybe they look back and regret and wish that they had listened to me, but like, I'll include this one little feature or whatever, and we'll send it and see what happens. And like, it's rough because, you know, like, you've compromised yourself, you know, you've compromised the quality of what you've given them, and that's going to last. And
Yeah.
then especially when you don't get to see that person again, you know, you've made the wrong choice. So it would have been much better for to stand your ground in the first place. But yeah, I agree. It's an interesting combination of like your obligation to make sure that you tell your client like the good and the best way to do it.
Yeah. How about you, Brian? Close out. Any thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Just next time, tell them they gotta tattoo themselves, and they'll put it better.
Oh my God, yes.
yeah, I mean, I got stories. I got more to say. I'm here. If
Yeah, I think
if
we're gonna
Angela's sticking around,
we're gonna keep going for a little while. I think we're
Got more
gonna
to say?
talk a little bit about Corona time. So if you want to stay in the chat, Dennis, while you're putting him to bed or whatever on Twitch app or whatever.
Yeah, I will. I'll probably try to just kind of like message through that way and grow my voice.
Yeah. And I think like we're gonna just talk a little bit about some other stuff, like if he's got some ideas, and then definitely like we'll like discuss like the announcements from today and like our thoughts and feelings on that. Close it
All
out.
right.
It looks like maybe a little bit like 11 or a little after 11.
All right, no problem, guys.
Well, thanks
I will
for
talk to
being
you guys later.
thanks for being part of the TatCast episode 1, Dennis. I think it's safe to say this is awesome. I've really enjoyed this, and I would love to be putting this together on a weekly basis at least. So let's
Yeah,
plan it for
definitely.
next week, whether it's Sunday or Monday, and we'll get it done.
All right, we'll figure something out, you know, and come up with other subjects. So
Yeah.
to the rest of the world, I'm Dennis, Angry Pencil Tattoos, Angry Pencil Studios. Sorry, I had to burp there. I hurt a little bit.
The burp
Little
is
heartburn.
in the Instagram tag.
Instagram. And I'll see you guys soon. So later, guys.
Peace, Dennis. Daryl, what's good in the chat? Thanks for coming out. Oh shit, the overlay is fucked now. Let me adjust this real quick.
Oh, okay. We can fix that up. Cool. Yeah, it looks like we got a good amount of people watching,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't have accounts either, that from our pages that have been.
Anyone who is watching,
Mhm.
please hit that or follow button. It means a lot. I'm going for Twitch affiliate. I'm very close. I need to get to the 50 follower point for us to be able to
I can follow
get a follow button. So yeah, there it is. I hope y'all like Final Fantasy tunes. Got that glorious battle victory music. So I really appreciate that. for everybody who's followed so far and will, and hopefully we'll keep building this thing and enjoying
Who's still in
live
the chat here?
podcast. We got quite frankly,
Frank. Yeah, what up, Frank?
boss level on hard, which is Daryl, and like 9 other viewers that have been hanging out loyally. A lot of respect to everybody here. I really appreciate it. It's been a good time so far, and let's keep it rolling. You said you had some other stories and stuff to share. What do you want to get into?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, whatever. I talk about anything. You know, I'm not really good at coming up with topics. I'm more of a, you know, answer versus you know, we can ask chat, you know, if the chat wants to ask questions, you know, anything about tattooing, being tattooers.
Yeah, apprenticeships,
Yeah.
thoughts on whatever that stuff, like origins, where like we're trying to keep an origin theme, but we're open to definitely any question.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming up in tattooing, obviously it was interesting for me, at least, because I worked in multiple shops at once at the same time, between John's shop and our shop. And
Yeah.
let's go with the story of my first tattoo, and then I'd like to hear about your first tattoo you've ever done. I don't know if I've ever heard that.
Okay.
So first tattoo I ever did on a human being was I'm sitting in the shop. I'm fully set up to tattoo a pound of flesh hand. And I bought this hand, and it was the first pound of flesh that I had ever bought. So I'm like geared up. I've got it all marker drawn. I've been drawing this shit for weeks, conceptualizing it. It's like an absurd concept. I actually have the thing floating around somewhere in this house somewhere, but it's like it's an eye. It's a hand, obviously, so it's an eye. It's got these like biomech features all around it. This ice that's like around the eye, encapsulating it. Another different, like contrasting biomech, like more earthy, like kind of skin texture feature thing going on, like tree roots down the fingers and shit. Like it's just way overdone. Way too many different colors and all sorts of madness. And I'm sitting there, and my mentor is tattooing this woman, and he's been there, like they've been at it for a while. She's getting a pretty quality piece. He does mostly like large scale work on like people that he's tattooed before, so they've got somebody with them doing the classic tattoo client friend thing, supporting them.
Mhm.
You know, respect to all those people, because sometimes it can be boring as fuck, but luckily for this lady, I'm hanging out that day. So John starts to talk to her. She's asking him about a tattoo. She's like, I'm looking to get a portrait rose on my forearm. And I'm listening and stuff.
Forearm.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, sick. You know, John's perfect for this because he's awesome with portraits, awesome with nature stuff. I'm excited to watch him do this rose when it does happen. I'm gonna be watching very closely. I haven't got to see him do like many roses, and it's something that I'm like very interested in learning. And he's like, oh, perfect. Well, I have my apprentice over there who's getting ready to do a tattoo right now. He's all set up anyway, and he can tattoo that rose on you if you're down with it. And I'm looking at John just like, bro,
Please no.
what the fuck? Like,
No.
what have you done to me? I've never tattooed anybody. I've never tattooed anything. And he's like, don't worry. He's very nice. He's very conscientious. He's gonna do a great job. I'm sure it'll be fine. He's been like watching these things happen forever. And I'm like dying inside, but I'm going to go for it. I'm gonna do it. Just because he's asked me, like, I'm not gonna back down from it. Like, this woman was hyped as fuck to get it done. So we set up, I print the rose, old school reference style. I'm like doing the hand transfer of the rose portrait, to the degree that I knew at the time, which is very little. I had created like maybe 5 to 10 stencils at that point and failed to apply them to my pound of flesh. So it was definitely like, I'm like, I know it's going to go better on skin. So I get it down, and this little rose that's like, if it was on my arm, it would take up like yay amount of room. It was on the top of the arm though, so it's like boom, like that type of job. And she wanted it pretty low, and that was even more intimidating. I'm like, this is a public motherfucking tattoo right here. Like, I can't mess this thing up. So I'm approaching it with like the utmost of carefulness and that like early tattooer mentality. Like, don't go too dark. You can always make it darker if it's whatever, but just like get the foundations in, and build it from there. And like, I'm sure this lady's arm was like red and irritated, and I just took it so slow and built it up. And like, luckily he was doing a huge piece, but like, I don't know, I want to call it 4.5 hours later. I've completed this like 3x3 rose, 4x4 maybe at most rose portrait with like very minimal leaves on it. Um, Sweating the whole time, like absolutely just dying, like trying to remember any little bits of information and tips that I've like put into the reservoir, probably using the wrong needles. I was only running a Cheyenne Spirit at the time, so it was like a pretty consistent feed. At least I knew like to some degree how I could be safe with it, and like what needles to use, like vaguely, but
Yeah.
but I did it, and it actually like it looked pretty good. I wish I had like a better easy access to the actual picture of it. I would bring it up right now and put it up for sure. But it was quite an experience, and I definitely in eventually taking on my own apprentice. That's Megan Boyle tattoo in the chat. That was something I would never do to her. So her process was a lot more planned out, and actually Bryant got her to jump the gun and I think tattoo him like significantly earlier, which was perfect because I probably wouldn't have known the right point to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah.
So how
Somewhere
about
around
you?
here.
What's your story?
That depends on like what you mean by like first tattoo, like first time I ever tattooed, or is it like first like client in a shop,
Well,
like somebody I
sounds like
didn't
you
know?
have two good stories. So let's hear the first time you ever tattooed somebody for sure, holding a
Well,
machine,
the
and
first
then the
time I ever
first
the
time
first
you
time I
ever
ever
tattooed.
the first time I ever tattooed at all was on myself.
Yep.
So I was at my I was living with John, and we were just like hanging out, and I was like, I want to try it, and because he was doing like stuff out of the house and whatever, and I was like, I want to try it. Like that sounds easy, the typical, everything sounds easy until you try it. And I did this like I did this little rose on my knee, like above my knee on my thigh, and I put the stencil on while I was sitting down. So when I stand up, the rose shrinks because my skin was stretched out because my knee was bent. So the rose gets super tiny when I stand up.
Yes.
It goes back to normal. So that was my first time. That was my first time ever tattooing. And then after that, I mean, I like would like use his stuff and like tattoo my thighs, and like it never was any good. Like needles are always backwards and everything is just bad.
Classic.
But I mean, when I started my apprenticeship and like I was actually going to tattoo a client, it was the owner of the shop, the guy that was doing my apprenticeship. It was one of his clients that he called Big Kevin, and so he's like, yeah, my boy Big Kevin is coming in, and you're gonna tattoo him. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh no, like I'm in so much trouble. And this dude comes in, and his name's Kevin, and he was very big. So he's just this big dude, and he's covered like head to toe in tattoos, like one of those like shaved heads, and he's got tattoos like all down his body. And I was like, where am I tattooing this guy? And there was like a little circle like right here on his upper arm, and like set it up, and I did this little skull. It was like an outline of a skull with like a few teeth, this little kind of, it almost looked like a logo, like a little kind of just whatever, just the outline. And I set up, my mentor's machine. It was like, I think it was a wiener dog. He was using the Setsafari wiener dog. It was an 11 round liner. And
nice. That's perfect for a small spot.
It was like cruising it at like 7 volts, and just like did it, and it only took me like 5 minutes or something like that. And he like gets up, and he looks at it in the mirror, and then he just like, I was like sweating. I was so nervous. I was like, I've never had anybody like give me like feedback on my tattoos. because I've never really done one on anybody other than like myself and like a couple friends, like people. And he like I was so I'm nervous. He's like quiet the whole time. He's looking in the mirror, and then he just hands me $20, and he's like not bad. And then and then he leaves. I was like, oh my god. I was like, cool, $20. I was like, this is my first paid tattoo. I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, I was super nervous all the time because like I got the tattoo Big Kevin, and he was just this big scary dude. And I don't know.
I'm having a crisis at the house with Orion having a meltdown, so you're gonna
Oh
have to
yeah.
keep elaborating or come up with the next subject.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nobody wants to listen to this until he chills out. He's way
Oh,
too
God.
tired right now.
Oh no. I don't know. If we should have been more prepared. Should have thought of more things to ask or talk about. In the chat here.
Strangest tattoo request, says my brother. Style and location.
I was working at Pelican, and this guy comes in with his girlfriend, and the guy was saying that his girlfriend had did him wrong in some way, shape, or form. So I obviously knew that I was going to have to do some sort of tattoo of like his name on her or something. Some like they did like weird things up there, like kind of like claiming property type tattoos. And the guy was like writing down his signature like over and over again on like a small piece of paper, so that like to find one to tattoo. And eventually he came up with one, and I was like, okay, well, I in any other situation I would have told the guy no. Like nowadays I would tell the guy no, like I'm not going to put your name on somebody for, it's just not something that I feel comfortable doing. But back then it's like I didn't have a choice. I was the only tattooer at the shop, and I was brand new to tattooing, so I was like, I guess I'll do it. And I was like, so where are we putting this tattoo, like on the arm or leg or whatever. And he wanted that tattoo like right down there, like right there, And I'm like, dude, I don't really feel comfortable tattooing there. I don't think that's like a really good idea. I don't think that this person should do that. And he was getting like mad. He's like, I'm giving you permission. And I was like, I don't need your permission to do this tattoo. I don't I don't think we're gonna do that today. And he's like, you're gonna do it, and being forceful with me. He's like, you're gonna do it, and I'm gonna be there the whole time watching you, and so you don't pull anything funny. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, what do you think this is, man? Like, I was like, why would you? So eventually, like, the guy left the room for a second, and I told the girl, I was like, I'm not doing it, and you have to tell this guy like I'm not doing it. Like, you need to like kind of stick up yourself here and help me out, because no one's gonna help me out in this situation. Like, my boss is gonna tell me to just fucking do it, and I'm in trouble. So eventually she was just like, yeah, let's just I'll try to get him on my arm or something like that. And eventually we did it. I did the guy's signature on her wrist or something like that. And we were both like talking it up to him so that he sounded it was a good idea, and he was all into it and whatever. And then they left. And but that was probably the strangest area I've ever been asked to do. The tattoo wasn't that weird, but like just I don't know. It's probably strangest area I've been asked to tattoo. And
Tell you what, tattooing in that area is not easy. Like when you do get, oh, fuck. Sorry to everybody's ears.
dodged that bullet, but yeah, I didn't do it. So longest tattoo session. I don't tattoo for very long. I'm a very quick tattooer, very fast tattooer, so I tattooed for Um, maybe the longest session I've done is about 5 hours, and that's like long for my tattoos.
Yeah, so like tattooing in that area is definitely difficult. Like it has that it's super stretchy first off. It's like it's
Yep.
definitely a hand cramp potential like if you're going to get the proper stretch to like really try to do a good job and it's not easy skin. It's like it's definitely a stranger to work with, but um that's a solid story overall. I think like definitely it's nice that you got them to change like the spot. It's pretty epic actually cuz like
It's
I feel like
part
they would be
it,
tough to
it,
convince.
it's kind of part of the whole thing with the beginnings of like my tattoo career, because it started at Pelican, and Pelican was the first shop I worked at, and that was just like a normal day. Like that was something that I would go through on a normal basis, everyday basis, and to learn how to tattoo there was very difficult. Nobody wanted traditional work. Nobody wanted the type of stuff that I wanted to learn how to do. And I do primarily color now, and the clients that came in couldn't get color tattoos; it just wouldn't show up on their skin. So I did a lot of like black and gray with like really heavy outlines, because in tattooing, when you do a heavy outline when you're a beginner, there's less kind of blips and wiggles in your line work. So using a thicker liner is kind of like a crutch in the beginning, and so it was just a lot of like praying hands and religious symbols with like a really sharpie thick outline around it, and then like West Coast like street shop style script name underneath, just kind of whatever, and it was just the weirdest looking tattoos. That's how I kind of that's how I learned. So chances are all those tattoos I did at Pelican with those big liners now are probably so thick. Like those tattoos over the past 3 years have probably gotten so bold. It's like they'd be probably, some of the lettering would probably be illegible. But I learned
Word. Yeah.
over time that
Yeah.
you just use a smaller needle, and I learned how to use all size needles now. So
Yeah. Daryl put out a solid question, which was ever been hit on while tattooing, and I think as tattooers we all deal with that. I've seen it, in a lot of clients and a lot of my employees as well, like mixture men and women,
Yep.
and it's obviously received differently. Very few times has it been like predatory around when women were there. Like I think like that's overall something that I thought would probably happen more than it has. And only one time have I ever received a call like, "Hey, you got these cameras on? What the like? So there's some sketchy shit going on. This guy's asking weird questions about like who's watching the cameras and security and stuff like that." And that's like, luckily in my shop, like there is a panic button that would have the cops come without any alarms going off within like 2 minutes. So we're very close to the police station. So um the like that definitely helped, and like having that especially at that time was important. But the like me personally, like yeah, it's definitely happened. It's
oh,
happened
for sure.
on
To me,
multiple
yeah.
different occasions in different ways. I think the worst part is like I don't even mind being hit on so much. Like one time I had a lady come in that was like, actually my girlfriend was there and this happened, and she comes back in and she didn't even want to address it or say anything because she was just like she felt so awkward about it. But the lady's like, I was wondering if I could get your card, and I'm like, oh, the shop number that I gave you on that card is the perfect place to contact me if you want to write me. Otherwise you can hit me up on Instagram. She's like, oh well, I was really hoping to like get your phone number. And I was like, oh well, I hate to, you have to let him down easy because like I think it's pretty easy to become attracted to somebody in a tattoo process. Like it's an intimate thing and stuff like that. But um, you like respectfully like decline. I'm taken. I have somebody. I thank you for your interest, this and that. But chances are you're not going to see that person again.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people take even harder steps. Like, you always have that time, like where you're tattooing a client that's like extremely attractive. One of my employees did that one day, young, super, super attractive girl. And then after the tattoo, like they tried to get their number and it's like, you know, you're out front, they've come back like randomly, like they left and then already came back, and then they're gonna ask you out, and you know, they were taken, they have kids, stuff like that. So it's always rough, like when that happens, and you probably won't see that client again, but hopefully they respect it and, you know, come back.
There's
Uh,
been there's been so many situations like that, and I can't even talk like I'm like some like super attractive dude, and like people are all over me. But it's like in tattooing, it doesn't even matter what you look like. These people just love it. Like they find you to be some sort of like I don't know, some sort of like weird sexual wizard, and you're just like some like dork that lives at their grandma's house, but people just want you for some reason. So like you deal with like the weirdest people too. Like, I mean, Daryl asked the question. He knows like when I was working with him, like someone like said some weird shit to me one time leaving a tattoo session that I don't even want to say. And then there was one time at the Edge when Josh worked there, and Josh was at the counter. He was a counter guy, and this woman came in and she was drunk and she was asking him like about cover-ups, and then started saying she was like, oh, you're cute, you know, but you know, I'm probably too old for you and stuff like that, and like hitting on Josh. And then Josh was like, you know what, I'm not a tattooer, but Bryant can help you out. And I was just like, oh no. So Josh like introduces me to this woman. I could tell she was like fucked up, but she wanted to talk about a cover-up. And then she was like, but it's like, I got to show you, you know, she's like, you know, and I was like, oh, you know, we can go in the back room if you're not, you know, comfortable, you know, like showing me or
oh
whatever.
no, I remember this one. I was
So-
there for this one.
So she goes, so we're in the back room and she wanted like a tramp stamp covered. I think Angelo actually did the tattoos later on. I think you did the
Yeah,
tattoos
you threw
later
this
on.
grenade right into my fucking spot.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, yo, catch this.
Yeah, but you know, but the grenade that went off in the back room that day.
Yeah, no.
This woman,
She
so
was
she starts
trash.
to like show me the tattoo, but then just like takes all of her clothes off for no reason. I'm like,
Yep.
I can see your tramp stamp, but she's like, her shirt just comes off, everything just starts coming
She
off.
forgot that shirt that day too. Like I never asked for it.
Yeah, she left the shirt there, and I was just like, oh my god. And I was like, yeah, well, all right, how about we just go back up front? You know, Josh will take care of you. He'll make you an appointment with an artist and blah 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 blah.
That was right after you were like, actually, I don't do that style, but that guy outside there, Angelo, does that. So he's got you.
I don't do cover-ups. I didn't do cover-ups. So I was like, well, I'm not doing this one anyways. I was like, if someone wants to do it,
yeah.
Angelo can do it. Because I'm pretty sure it was just us three there.
Yeah,
it was. That was like the craziest thing that's ever happened. And like, why you got to take all your clothes off? Like, why are you naked right now?
So there was that time. There was a time where I had a young artist, so he's a young man. I won't specify. I have a couple of solid stories here, I think, but he was very young. I want to say 20. You know, he's a young, healthy dude, and I have these women that came in who are a little bit older, like middle-aged ish. They are a lesbian couple, but they are absolutely in love with him and openly doing so. So they're like,
this was someone that worked there.
Yeah. So they're, you know, getting the tattoo by him and stuff, and they're like just like making kind of comments here and there, but they legitimately at one point they're like, you know what, we just love like working young guys, you know, into the bedroom with us. Young guys, she's like, they just stay hard forever. She's like, and they're just cute like a little puppy. And then both of them are barking at him. And like this is through the whole shop. I'm fucking dying up front. I think my mother was running the front desk at the time. Like we're dying together. It was too much to handle, and like it was way too far past the point that you could call it, you know, ethically, because the tattoos are underway. So what the fuck are you gonna do? So these ladies just ran the show at the shop for the rest of that night, and I felt so bad. Like it was awesome and it was hilarious, and they were super cool people, and they've been back, but it was just, that was quite an experience. And then another, you know what? Hilariously enough, another one of the stories that I have is another group, younger lesbians. I'm tattooing one of them. The partner is like they decide to go in for a little kiss or whatever to like console their partner. I have no idea. I'm tattooing her like front of her bicep, and then they start like just making out way too much. But like like when you're tattooing that area, like right here, to be a tattoo artist, you're like this close. So now like
Yeah.
our three faces are within like 2 square
Well,
feet of each other.
well,
Like,
too
and I'm
close.
like backing off. I'm like, you guys clearly you need like a moment here. I'm not trying to be a part of this weird like
Get,
sadism
getting
kiss
like
sesh.
splashes.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'll just let you guys handle this and then get back to work. But like, you always get those situations, and they weren't even fucked up. That was just like that was something they didn't give a shit about. That was like casual for them. For me, it's like mind blowing. Like I'll never forget that. And then poor, poor Megan, my apprentice, and I'm gonna sell you out here by name one day. And I should have stopped this. I don't know. I could have stopped it probably, but like I didn't even know how to go about doing it. Had tattooed this woman, and she like and her man seemed kind of messed up, and this guy like kissing her way too often, just like little pecks here and there, just way too often. And then all of a sudden they're like going in way too hard when she's like at a time where it's trying. I don't know if it's like to console or what, but then this dude's got like his hand on her belly, and it wasn't like she had a solid belly size wise, and he's like sending his finger into her navel. And it was one of the most disturbing things I've ever witnessed, to the point that I literally like I don't have tons of anxiety, but I got some anxiety, and my shit was peaked. Like I wanted to say something and I couldn't. I felt so bad for Megan because she's like just just tattooing like less than a year of like full time being an artist. And I don't know. It's that's one of my biggest regrets, I think, in tattooing, is not stopping that guy right away and just being, yo, you got to get the fuck out of the studio. She'll call you when she's done. But like sometimes, man, you live and you learn.
Sometimes you just gotta go through those things, man. Like you kind of just have to roll with the punches sometimes, and you're put in some awkward positions. But
Like we're not even like on the strip. Like imagine if you worked in like a city shop or like somewhere like Vegas, like
oh yeah, we haven't seen anything like other shops have seen. Like
like I could only imagine some of the wild shit. Like
we're laughing about this, but like there's got to be tattooers out there like
yeah, this is nothing.
that's the daily. Like yeah, I don't know.
Oh god, especially during a time where it was like less social media, I'm sure it was even more vulgar and crazy. Like I'm guessing anytime before like 2000, like before camera phones were really good, or video at least on the
Yeah.
phones was really good.
Yeah, most of my like bizarre experiences came from Pelican, but it just it can happen anywhere. Like it can happen at some of like what you would consider like the most high end shops or whatever. People just go in that are weird. Like tattoo shops attract strange people regardless of like how you project your tattoo shop to be. You know, like
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's
Yep.
people are fucking strange. But they think that it's like okay because we're a tattoo shop and like most tattooers and like the stigma behind tattooing is just like kind of odd. And but
Yeah, they're
no,
like,
I don't.
these guys
so-
have tattoos. They see crazy shit all the time. Or like maybe they're just
Yeah,
like,
or
this is
they're
what they
like-
expect.
they're into fucking weird things. Like you should ask them to like dress up as a dog for us. Like no,
Yep.
fucking weirdo, get out of here.
Oh,
So
man.
strange. I don't know, but yeah, I've gotten a lot of weird people hitting on me and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of it is like you get like the worst part I think is like the messages you get. Like you get a lot of messages from people or clients and they like want like a tattoo, like an under boob tattoo or something, and they'll just like straight up send you a photo and you're just like, I know where the under boob is. Like I'm sure we could figure it out if you make an appointment and leave a deposit. Like
Yeah.
I gotta go. Like this is trouble. But you got to be careful though too, man. Like, obviously, uh, with people on the internet, like, and people that come into your business and like hitting on you, and then next thing you know, they're outing you for something that you didn't do, or something, or your career is kind of out the window. People, uh, just because people like attention and people like to do shitty things to people, that whatever. But that's like a whole nother topic of discussion, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's definitely that element of it too nowadays,
Yeah.
especially. But yeah, so to move on, I guess today we had the extra announcement. Did you see any of what the statements that came out were like for?
no,
It's not looking good for us for Connecticut.
No.
And I've been getting more and more upset, and we can cover this on multiple like different levels here. But I've been somebody who, since the beginning of like coronavirus, has like before they closed us, I called it for myself. Like I called it several days before, and I was like, I texted everyone that works for me and encouraged the same. But I said, you can continue to work until they close us, which I do expect. Um, just because that's like what I believe in. I'm not going to force my will onto other people, as long as I know everyone's operating super clean, and we were already doing some pretty extensive procedures, so it was not a big deal for me. But um, like I bailed early, waited it out. I was kind of on board, 2-3 weeks. Maybe we're talking a month here, maybe a little bit more than that of time for quarantine to be reasonable. And I knew that it was early because New York hadn't even begun like peaking yet, so I knew like
Yeah.
we're in the backyard of New York, and that's like for me what I think of it as, even though we're decently far away. Is like we got to think about like where people are filtering from and coming from, and we are getting those people from the city, and they're going to have these things like New York or Boston. Like we're close enough to either and getting enough interaction with either that like we need to use those as like our parameters for concern. And then it gets to the point that we've been at it for a while, and the dates are moving back, which I expected. Like I wasn't planning on the first date. I never believed the first date. I knew that was bullshit.
April 1st, I think, was the first date they gave us,
Yeah, so like
which was only a couple weeks after we had left.
Yeah, I knew that would never work, and even if they did want to make that work for me, I was going to wait. Like that's just the simple truth of the matter. So they took measures, stimulus came out, all these other things to help to compensate, and it took a lot of work on my end to
Yep.
be able to achieve some of those things. And now we're getting to the point that the numbers really aren't there for this thing anymore, in my opinion. For especially for a risk to be concerned, and then now we just keep getting, in my opinion, disappointed. I
Right.
think we had a pretty strong outreach. I think enough people made probably serious inquiries to the governor. He has mentioned now tattoos as a specific thing several times, and it's sad to see and say that their plan now is like a multiple phase plan. Phase one, they're talking hairstylists. They've now taken nails out of phase one, which
Mhm.
I think is totally reasonable, because I don't think that if you're gonna open nails, you need to open the other stuff. And it's all weird to me anyway, because like I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm not even campaigning for tattooing. I'm gonna say that I'm more on the side of dentists. Like dentists are also closed for the most part, I think, besides emergency dental.
Yeah, emergency. Yeah.
So dentists should be in phase one. There's no reason that they shouldn't be. And if you're going to allow hair places to open, you ought to allow dental places to open. There are plenty of people that are having dental issues that need that done and have one-on-one contact. And that's like not going to be that risky. Obviously, you're working in a mouth. I think that's the real concern. But there's enough things that people could be doing to avert those risks,
Yeah.
even when you are working directly in somebody's mouth. But I think so. What they said now is that there's a 2-phase plan. Phase two, he's speculating sometime around June 20th, which for me was really when I was hoping to be open by. Phase two does not include us. Phase two does not include dentists. Phase two includes the fucking baseball stadium, the Yard Goat Stadium, with no additional parameters right now of seating. Like, so you're going to allow hordes of people to crowd into lines and sit next to each other, cramped in as tightly as possibly allowed by any legal standpoint, and you're not going to allow one-on-one contact. through tattoo artists with the people that are like the procedures we're already doing. I think based on what you sent me in that picture and based on my experiences in hospitals and stuff, we are already baseline even before corona doing way more for cross contamination prevention than anybody else in there is doing in that field. The only other and dentists I have not seen with the same cross contamination issues. They also are much better. My orthodontist as well when I had one. So they're now talking after June 20th. Now we are also getting unemployment, this and that, but that's fucking it's just bullshit. That's too long. That's too far. The numbers just aren't there at this point. Like there are real arguments against why this is happening, or against like the idea of quarantine. And what I would say is my number one argument and the craziest shit that I found out so far is the mean age of people dying from corona is higher than the mean age where people are just dying of old age and natural causes. This says that it's not risky. It's not riskier than just being alive is.
And you also
Especially
have
at this
to
point.
look at these other things that, because if every day, it's been hard not to look at your phone and look at all these like articles coming from like the news section of like if you have like an iPhone or something, there's all these articles, and it's like why experts are saying this, why experts are saying now children are more at risk. Experts are saying there's a new symptoms. Experts are saying this may not be over until 2023 or 2022 or something like that, and it's like who the fuck are they? I don't know. And it's like they're not really saying who these experts are. They're just I feel like there's just a lot of stuff going out there that's just generating a fear and generating a people just something for people to read. But it's like I'm tired of reading about it. We know it's there. We know it's bad, and it's at the point where nobody wants to hear about the new symptoms anymore. No one wants to hear about how many people die. People want to know when they can go back to work so that they can provide for their families and stuff like that.
And the work is important. Like in my opinion, I think as we get to looking at maybe potentially July, I don't think like if it's not fully open by July everywhere across the U.S., the economic impact is already going to be extreme. The economic impact
Right.
is going to turn into deaths. You're going to have suicide. You're going to have mental health issues. You're going to have starvation potentially.
Mental health for sure. I mean, we talked about this the other night. We talked about the things becoming less accessible to people. And
Yeah.
and Frank, you definitely can join in on the chat. I know you said you're a conspiracy theorist.
I'm a big
I
conspiracy
hope you
guy,
know
but
who you're I hope you know who you're talking to.
I've stayed
But
away from conspiracy for the most part, but
right,
just to be like blunt with it, it's getting to the point that there is going to be bigger issues following this because of economic stuff that it really is starting to not make sense. And if you're going to
right,
go with the policy of opening a fucking baseball stadium and not opening a one-to-one tattoo experience where there's going to be extensive measures in our shop, I'll just throw it out there. We're already talking about protective eyewear, protective everyone's going to be required to wear a mask, and every artist is also going to have a face shield on top of that, just to prevent any cross contamination of blood, micro spray to inhaling from us and from them.
right.
So like that's excessive. And then on top of that, tons of other procedures, but like you're not seeing that in hospitals. You're not seeing that in doctors' offices that are open right now. You're not seeing that at ice cream shops that are facilitating 10 to 50 people gathering outside with no masks. They're fucking eating and talking and all the shit. And people just don't understand like the measures of what's going on. Like this thing, the craziest part about the coronavirus is how long it can live on a surface. Most things don't live that long. This coronavirus is lasting at least 14 days at a maximum of 17 days on a surface without being sterilized. And that's only killed by, Lysol or, I'm pretty sure they're testing, Maticide, Cavicide, things like that are showing to have good effects on getting rid of it.
Mhm.
But no one's cleaning that. Like when you're at a fucking ice cream place or a grocery store, there's nobody coming by with those things cleaning it. They're as far as like garbage cans or whatever that people are all touching. Um, the the fact of the matter is like it's it's getting ridiculous. You're gonna do that. You're gonna open gyms. They're talking about opening fucking gyms where people are gonna sweat and you're
Yeah.
exhaling your personal cloud in a fucking gym. You're talking about a 12 square foot or larger area of contamination just from your sweat coming off your body and evaporating. So it's extremely risky, and that's bullshit. Like there needs to be a smart, like whoever's on this team here, at least in Connecticut, is a bunch of fucking idiots and goons, because there's no way that's I don't give a shit about what people can work out, you can walk, you can run, you can push up, everything at home. I don't give a fuck about your gym routine. And I don't really have any regrets about that. So like there should not be any of that going on.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, in baseball, fucking baseball, you're gonna bring
I don't-
back,
I'm-
and that's
I-
great.
I'm in
That's
no-
just because they're looking to make money off their stupid stadium that they wasted all the money building.
I am in no way eager to go to a yard goat game, even without there being a global pandemic.
I'll permanently boycott that shit forever. Like I was thinking about going, but if they're gonna do that,
to,
fuck them.
don't
I'll
need to
never
go and watch that. So,
And
yeah,
that's
I
just
mean-
like madness, man. Like, what the fuck is the point of that? And you know, maybe their fear is that people aren't gonna do it right, but
mhm.
damn, let that be the liability for them. You know, we got insurance, we have releases, like, you know, you have a reputation. All these things are on the line. When people
Right.
are talking about what their procedures might be or are going to be going forward, and even how they've handled Corona, even I was kind of tilted when people were like, when the numbers were basically peaking and people were like, look, go back to work. I'm like, you know, fuck you. Obviously, that's the wrong choice. But now I've gotten to the point, like, I just listened to the Elon Musk, Joe Rogan podcast. The second part was really good. His point, he's actually moving his entire business out of California because they won't open him. He's got a business in China. They have 7,000 employees in China in risk areas, and they didn't have one employee die from Corona in the 7,000 in China, and no one in California. And he's moving. He's done. He's already shutting down all their operations. And his main point is, even outside of business, outside of spite, outside of all that stuff, what happened here is a big surrender of rights. And me, as somebody who believes strongly in rights and freedom, and like the fact that even most of those are violated by many of the laws that we all regularly embrace, including, I don't believe in taxation. I believe that that's theft. I'm a libertarian, not even a libertarian. I'm a full-on economic anarchist. I don't believe that any of that stuff is legitimate, and like I'm willing to eat a lot of it, and I can live with a lot of it because the consensus of the general population is decently important. But and I always have the choice to move or do what I want. But if you're gonna stop me from being able to operate in my business, and then they're expecting me to pay rent. My fucking landlord is gonna have me pay the rent for the time that I've been there, or that I haven't been there, and they're deferring it. They're like, my management company, who's actually a generally greedy company that I haven't liked, is allowing me to defer it, and they're going to work with us on it, which is awesome and is super appreciated. But it's not fair to close a business and also force them to pay the utilities, also force them to pay the rent.
I don't
Like-
think it's even there's. I'm starting to question and wonder about the legality of things like that, and telling
it
people that they
it can
can't
be.
go to work.
If we all went
Isn't
back,
that like a breach on your constitutional rights as like an American?
absolutely. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. Is it's at the
So if
point
we
now
go back
where
to
it's
work, if we go back to work tomorrow,
yeah, they couldn't stop us.
taking us away in handcuffs, it would be illegal.
Yeah, they first off, they wouldn't do that. We all know that they would never waste their time on that. There's no regulation of any of the tattoo industry ever, almost, and they probably wouldn't do it in this case, even though it might make a good story. But the fact of the matter is, if there's enough people that just agree, fuck it, fuck you guys, we're all going back, there's nothing you can do, and we're fully ready to hire one attorney to fight you in a fucking federal court together, and we're gonna crush you. You know, go fuck yourself. And on top of that, like the it's too much. Like, it's too much of an obligation. If they're talking July, that's April, May, June, and July's rent. You're talking potentially, for most people with that rent and utilities, $10,000 you're asking someone to pay. Like, as a business owner, nobody has $10,000 to just fucking burn.
It should
And
be
it's-
waived.
And they're
I mean,
not talking about giving me any tax breaks from the state. Like they're not like, oh hey, you're not going to pay sales tax until you've earned, until you've owed $10,000, $20,000 in sales tax to pay back the rent that we forced you to pay when shit was going bad. Like they're not even discussing that as an idea. And
yeah.
that's just the beginning of what could happen, of ways that they could do some sort of compensation. And that wouldn't even be good for the businesses that are about to be out of business because they can't sustain and don't even have the money to pay the bills to get by for keeping the utilities on. Or maybe
Right.
they have a bad landlord that's like, as soon as the Trump regulations up, you're going to be paying regardless of if you're open or not.
So this is one of the first times where I've thought, and what Daryl said, these people have never been inside of a tattoo shop or a piercing shop, and
Yeah.
probably people that work on these committees and stuff like that, have stigmas about what we do and probably don't understand and stuff like that. And CAPT are the people that are trying to become a part of government and become a part of the decisions that the government makes on tattooers' behalf, by being involved with legislation. And as much as I don't care for them, this is like the first thing that's ever come up where I'm just like, well, shit, like now it's like, if we did have someone as a tattooer involved with how they're making these decisions, but I just don't think I don't think that's reasonable either. And a lot of what CAP's doing now is like, they very much stir the pot. And sometimes I think that we're better off just not talking about ourselves at all, because then it's like, you if you just don't mention tattooing and you don't mention that we exist, maybe they'll be like, yeah, fucking tell them to go back to work. That's fine.
Yeah, we
But
could
then,
have just snuck in with nail salons or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah, but then now that you got
Solicit
people that want to
statements.
be tattooers that want to be president or whatever they're trying to do, knocking on the door, being like, it's us, we're the best, like give us our tattooing and stuff like that. Like now you just put us on the map. Now you just spotlighted us. Now you highlighted us, and now they're going to think more about us. And then since they don't know anything about us, they're just going to throw us into whatever phase that they want to throw us into. When you could have just went back to work if you just waited a little bit longer and not bothered anybody about it. So I'm kind of like up and down about the whole cap thing and what they're trying to do. And I know that gets really controversial and gets really
Well, I'll be
whatever.
transparent on that
But,
subject too, because I definitely, like, I lost support for them recently because they were one of the people that I think were kind of campaigning while they said they were doing the classic, we're not one way or another on this, but we're going to make this post here that's saying like we should all be back to work today basically, or tomorrow, based on some demand. And I'm like, I'm not with that. It's dangerous. And express some opinions, do an unfollow, whatever. But now, they also, I'm on the email list. I saw the thing they were sending out, and it was like, it's good that they're gonna try to be like professional and try to like reach out and do this stuff. But at the same
yeah,
time, they're also in that thing that they were talking about, sneaking in bullshit regulations that they themselves believe in that have
right,
nothing to do with current state
so,
tattoo laws,
right,
that they're trying to have like also included in like a coronavirus change to be new laws, and then try to probably hold on to continuing those laws. And those laws are concerned with the shitty part of unions, which is the worst fucking thing, which is the barrier to entry. And they're talking about, tattooers have to have 5 years of experience and
yep,
can only have one apprentice. And yeah, no, we don't want tattoo schools. I don't love it when a 1 year tattooer is taking on 5 apprentices and fucking making a fucking whole shop of hacks that maybe gets good or not. But it's also a fucking competitive market, and I know that we can crush those people when it comes to art. So it doesn't matter to me in that case, but it does matter to
right,
me that you're going to try to create this barrier to entry, which I don't believe in, because I learned from a guy who tattooed forever, and while it was great and while it was awesome, like there was a lot to be left to learn. And then when
right,
I at 4.5 years started teaching my apprentice, you're saying 6 months later I'm qualified, but I'm not then. It's the same shit when it comes to driving. It's the same shit when it comes to drinking. Why is there a fucking magic age or number or time where 1 second before you're not qualified and 1 second later you are?
right,
If there's a test, there's a test, and it's fine, pass the test. But if it's not, then fuck it. There doesn't have to be. If you can't keep up, you can't keep up. You don't need like keep people out of your industry, you need to fucking take a seminar. You need to start drawing and painting and actually give a shit about your tattooing.
I think what is the hardest thing to understand is like CAP was developed shortly after the state created tattoo licensing. And to me personally, like I know your opinions on the tattoo license, like why you fucking have it, blah blah. And it doesn't decide who's a good tattooer or a clean tattooer. It's simply money that the state wants. And what I looked at it as when I got my tattoo license was just like you go and get a diploma from school. You know, it's a piece of paper that says like you did this, and you know you can show people that, and people can be, you know, and you can be proud of it. And sure, you know, it has actually no value. It has a $200 value bi-yearly, biannually, and that's fine. But that was what triggered them to create that organization. But then that organization wants more like rules. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what exactly are you doing? Because this industry is never going to be contained. You're never going to make rules for this industry. It's not possible. This industry was built on pirates. You can't control tattooers as much as you'd like to. I mean, tattooers are smart enough to follow safety guidelines and procedures and get their bloodborne pathogens and get their state required licensing, but then just leave them alone. Leave us alone, you know, like
like if
so
their
why-
campaign was all about having no more additional regulation, then
Right.
to get that license and whatever, you know,
Yeah.
or maybe if there was a sensible checklist of things like we had talked about earlier, like where is your sharps container, how are you using a clipboard cover, just the simplest of things, then sure. But if you're trying to push that agenda to like create classic barriers to entry, which all fucking unions do, and that's why unions are all terrible. I don't give a shit what union it is. It's all bad. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for productivity. It's bad for society. It's bad for everything.
Right.
And you're not gonna, especially in tattooing, you're not gonna say someone can't get an apprenticeship by a younger tattoo artist and then have that stop some first year artist who's just a gifted artist from coming in, self teaching themselves from YouTube, which, sorry, but it's fucking easy to do and totally possible, and crushing you in tattooing from their house without rent, without regulation, without insurance, without any real liability, with full profit, and you're going to get fucking screwed. They'll put you out of business if they
Yeah.
are close enough to you and blow up. And we
Right.
have in the state of Connecticut several house tattooers that are slaying and doing a good job, and they run a clean shop, cleaner than most shops,
Yeah.
or at least half. You know, like
I just think there's something dishonest about somebody that would consider themselves me and you. Okay, so these people think of themselves the same as me and you. We're tattooers, right? I think there's something dishonest about them creating this organization and getting involved in government and getting involved with legislation without everybody consent. Every tattooer's consent, and they're saying that they're speaking on our behalf when we're not on board. So if I'm not on board with what they're doing, but they're telling them that they want to speak on my behalf, I feel like there's something dishonest about that. And if you're trying to make this organization, they're trying to get us, they still walk around every convention with that stupid clipboard, trying to get $50 from everybody. And I was like, I'm not interested. Just keep moving, you know? Because
Yeah.
if you can't get every single tattooer in Connecticut signature, just don't do it, because not
Even if you
everyone's going to be on
can,
board.
you're gonna go on majority rule. Like, majority rule is not fair. Like, mob rule is not the right way. Just because most people say something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Who's going to be the tattooer that gets to go on the board? You know, who gets to be that base?
Well, they're talking about like an election, but then
now we
got
to vote for some tattooer to be in. I don't want to do that, because nobody wants this. Nobody wants them to do that. And then
I don't think any serious artists or tattoo artists want any additional regulation at all. Like, we're regulated enough. You have a Google review. Your Google review is your regulation. If you got a bad review, you know, if you have a bad average rating on there and it's established, you're fucked. You're going down, dude. Like, you're not surviving in tattooing with a 2-star rating. You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is 5 or 6 people back to back saying unclean, bullshit, this and that. They can post pictures to your Google without your consent. You could go in and take pictures of a shop and post every single picture you have and with big ass arrows on it and say contaminated area in sterile field and crush somebody if they're doing it the wrong way, if you really cared enough about it. But that's the other way is, I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. At first I was like, maybe it'll be a good idea. And as soon as there was talks about additional legislation and requirements and this and that, it's like, just let people decide what the fuck they want to do themselves. Like the paradigm we have with the licensing right now is better than what we had before, which any shop owner knows. We were paying doctors and getting extorted by doctors.
Yeah.
I had to pay a guy $2,500 once to come in. He looks around for less than 3 minutes, nothing serious, not even at any one setup tattooing. Signs a paper that says, he checks us off, takes the check, and drives away in his Beamer. And he was like probably the last one in the state even willing to do that. And they're like the other guy before him, the price was always going up. And whatever they said went. He $2,500, he could have said $5,000. I would have still had to do it. Otherwise, my business would not have been open. And that's any time a medical inspector came around. So once the prices started going up, I'm sure me and a lot of other shops, waited until we needed that signature to get that signature.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
paying $250
really
each, it's fine with me. But
it's fine. Every 2 years to pay $200 just for someone to leave me alone. As a tattooer, that you can
it's
make
not
$200
making
extra
anybody safe
on a fucking Saturday morning, and then you do the rest of your clients, and you fucking go out to the fucking casino that night. Don't act like it's such a fucking expensive, like, oh, $200 every 2 years, I can't afford that. It's like, yes, you can. If you're a good tattoo artist, yes, you can. Maybe that's all they wanted to do, because the government is not just doing it to tattooing; they're doing it to everybody.
It's for money, it's for money. Look at even once they had the licensing, and you came over, and you're like, oh, there's these people in Hartford, and to be real, I already had someone else I was working with trying to report. It was a home tattooer that I knew was fucking around out of the house and wasn't doing it the right way. So I was trying to get him reported, and they're like, oh, your report's not enough. We can't investigate this. We need a client who's gone to see them, gotten a tattoo to testify. I'm like, oh, so someone already has to have Hep B or Hep C or HIV before you're even willing to inquire. And we're paying you $200 to $250 a person. There's an entire job. And you know what the funny shit is? The state's not fucking making money, because the person that they have to do the tattoo regulation is a full-time job that pays crazy money, and no one's ever seen him.
When I was at Pelican, I think I've told you this before.
It's a negative-sum game.
The Hartford Health Department came to the shop because they collect money from the owner.
Yeah,
they collect $300.
Obviously, our town has started now.
It's a $300 tax that they need to pay in order to keep the business for piercing and tattooing to stay open. And the owner said, I'm not giving you any money until you go down the street, and there was a shop called 33 Degrees,
the barber shop,
which was a front for tattooing. And Hartford even redid the town and wrote in big letters on their thing, tattoo supplies. So they were a tattoo supplier that was a front for tattooing. And if you move this big banner, there was a tattoo shop in the back. And Joe said, I'm not giving you the $300 until you close them down. And she said, we already tried. He said, well, then get the fuck out of my shop.
Yeah, it's like, well, then you have no power. You can't do shit to me. And
he said, get the fuck out. And she was just like, okay, have a good day. And Pelican's still open.
Yeah.
So,
dude, they've never inspected us.
Next time someone comes to you and says, I need money, tell them to fuck off.
It's 3 years now that South Windsor started collecting. Ever since, it's a trend now, and it's not a lot of money yet, but I'm sure it'll creep up more and more. But they've not come to check us once. And that's wrong. Like, you can't charge and not inspect. At least come inspect, because then I at least feel like something's happening. All
I'm saying is I'll pay the $200 every 2 years, just so that they just leave me alone. And the issue is now that there's people that they think that, oh well, first it's a license, and the next thing you know, we're going to be wearing full suits and goggles and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, if you keep prodding them with your fucking bullshit, if you keep coming at them saying, all these tattoo looking goons going up to, these committees and being like, we want to be a part of it. So, no, just go back to tattoo shops and tattoo. You have a much cooler job than these guys do. Why do you want to be a part of government? Like, why do you want to be a part of that? You don't. Go draw on people. It's awesome. I'll pay $200 every 2 years. Fine. And so when you come in, you can look at my blue little piece of paper and leave me the fuck alone. Because if I don't have one of those, they're gonna bother me even more. So, do you want that? Do you want that on your back, or do you want to just be able to say, "Yeah, I got my piece of paper and I got bags for things. You know, I should just leave." And leave.
I mean, and now think about all of this, right? And like all of those things that we just talked about with just even just licensing and the whole debate. And then how going forward with this corona shit and them claiming to reopen and have this sensible phase nonsense where it's not, and it's obviously all a bad idea of what they're doing, and highly, you know, infringing on our rights as Americans and as humans in general. They're not going to inspect shit. There's going to be no additional regulations. No one's ever going to come by to see if we're doing any of this stuff, and the stakes are going to be all the fucking higher.
Just like Gerald said, you know, if he doesn't know anyone that's ever been inspected, you know, are they going to really show up if you open early?
That's what I'm saying.
Is someone going to show up?
I've said it the whole time. Fuck no. I mean, you could get on the news if you if somebody wants to put you on the news and make you part of their little hype story. Then yeah, you could get noticed. And I've considered a lot of this, but I think the real answer here is we give it a number. Like, look at the coronavirus statistics, new cases and deaths, and at some point we say when it's below this for a week, I don't give a fuck what the government says. We're all going back to work. They're not going to stop us all, and if they want to try to stop one of us, then we're all in on it together.
They have to know.
We're going to evenly split an attorney.
They have to know that if they keep pushing it back long enough, that people are eventually going to rebel against those things. The only thing that we have the ability to literally board the windows, contact clients privately, you know, tattoo them, and then go home. The issue is if we're not technically allowed to be open, that waives our
liability.
Our waivers are useless.
Probably. Chances are still no, because you would just have to prove that being forced to be closed is unconstitutional, which it is. And then you defend yourself with your normal legal standpoint, which we would have. Right. But yes, like there could be way more legal time spent and money spent than you really want to.
That's why I would never, getting down to, if it's like life or death, if you tattoo or you go broke, I would never tattoo a stranger, like I would never tattoo someone I've never met and be like, yeah, I'll do this for you on the low,
Agreed.
You can come in and tattoo, no, this has to be someone I've tattooed 5, 6, 7 times, and someone that I would consider even a friend or part of my family, because it just, I don't know, because if they get sick, they go somewhere else and they get sick, we talked about this too, they'll come after you, and it's like, how much does the waiver make? Oh, I had them sign the waiver. It's like, well, you weren't supposed to be open. So that's just going to be the biggest fight to fight. And then at the end of the day, no one will probably win. No one will probably lose. It'll just be the biggest waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
But eventually, if they keep pushing people back, people are getting impatient. People are starting to stir, how much longer, and then all the people that are fighting for it online, they're getting their rights back in different states. They can go to work, and then they forget all about people like us that they were, just bantering with. Oh yeah, we're in this together. Blah blah. Oh shit! No wait, they're opening my state tomorrow. Fuck you guys. See ya. Where do you guys go? You guys aren't on Instagram anymore. Talking to me, helping me out. You're not going to come and sign my petition. You're going back to work. You've already forgotten completely about the conversation we just had the other day about being closed, because people only care about themselves. People fucking care about themselves. And
the one shining part that I think might come, which most people might not like, is I think that Trump will probably put an end to it way earlier than the governors are gonna fuck around with, because it'll get to the point where he can say everywhere outside of New York City that's forced to be closed right now doesn't have to be,
right.
And that's law, that's federal law. And no one's going to supersede that. So, they can do that. And he could do that with an executive order. And I think that he might. But, maybe for a little while, I think it might not, like right now, it might not be the best. Like I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow. You know what I mean? But
Right.
like by June, with the way the numbers are looking, I'd want to go back.
They're telling us over a month ago that these numbers are going to double, triple. They haven't. They haven't.
They're
You know,
going way down. They're
they're
going way
saying, you
down.
know, over you know, potentially 1 million deaths or something like that. Experts say this, experts say that, and then it doesn't happen. And I'm still fucking waiting for this mass amount of people to just drop dead, and nothing is happening.
I
Nothing's
mean,
happening.
we've had it. I think for the response that we did, we probably saved a lot of lives, right? And we've still lost 70,000 people, which a lot of people are debating being overreported because of hospital politics,
Right.
of the fact that they get a lot more stimulus money if they say it if they had corona. And it's pretty easy to prove that, you know, the body had corona on it at some point, you know, before or after, once it's been in a hospital. So like they're over-reporting numbers, and even at that point, like the death rates are it's just too low, and like the risk factors are important. I wouldn't encourage anyone who's obese and has a weak immune system to be going out right away. But if you're just young and healthy and you need to be doing it, like yeah, like, and there's people like we were talking about the other day, like there's got to be people that have made bigger sacrifices than almost any of us, like say a
Yeah.
young nurse with a family who in the beginning was just like this is just too dangerous for me to work around and bring home,
Yeah.
so I can't work. You guys are going to continue to give me a job, but I'm going to have to quit now. Now they had to quit their job, they're not getting paid, they're not getting unemployment, they could be suffering, their family could be suffering, and you know, none of that is really fair when it comes down to it. Like people need their own agency, and like right now they're robbed of that even more than usual.
Yeah. I feel like too. You know, this whole thing, you know, these numbers that we're seeing, you know, Frank just said, you know, these numbers, they change all the time. And there's these people saying that people are dying of different causes and they're being reported as coronavirus. And when asked about it and when asked to change it, they can't. These people are reporting heart attacks as coronavirus deaths. And there's, I mean, that gets more into a conspiracy side of things, but like, I feel like they're just trying to report more deaths to keep people more afraid or something. But like,
In
what?
some of these places, I have some thoughts on my own that it's like there's there's a little bit of money in it for the state, because every person who's unemployed is able to get state money, and a lot of people are not full-time employees, but they're getting that 600 a week. So for a
Yeah.
lot of effort, let's call it every part-time employee is making more money now than they were before, then that money is coming into the state and is nothing that the state has to pay. So the state's like bringing in federal money that wouldn't be there otherwise, and it's to the benefit of potentially the local economy or the state economy for right now or for the future, to keep that happening for a certain amount of time. And they're letting anyone who gets paid well already for like these high-end industries, or you know, office type of work, stuff that can be done from home, whatever, that are typically like your super high paying jobs, do their job still. So like those people haven't lost their money, and other people are making a little bit more than usual. The state's getting maybe a little more than usual, and they're not changing it out of greed, but like possibly, like I don't know that, but like there's no way to fully speculate on it, you know, from the outside, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's like, now that I'm like really digging in lately, it's there's some weird debates to be had, and like definitely some strong questions, I think.
I think the only thing that we can at least give us like some hope, because we can check the news every week and they'll push us back and push us back and push us back. But what we have to kind of understand and kind of tell ourselves is that they can't go that far back. Like, and even if they do on paper, it's not going to hold for much longer. So they could say June and then July and then August. Eventually, it's just not going to happen. And eventually, people are just going to put up way too much of a fight. And eventually, higher government's just going to say, just open the shit back up, because you can't just stop people from doing things. You know, you can't just stop the world for that long. You
I
know,
mean, the
it's just
economy's already going to suffer enough just from the inflation with the stimulus. So,
yeah,
like, to not get that circulating and at least put some of the value, like get some value out of it, is nuts. Like some of it is circulating, and I'm sure like on the high end, some people are pretty happy, like alcohol sales and stuff like that. You know, cigarettes, I'm sure, are probably doing fine still, especially once they announced that smoking decreased your chance of getting corona by like 75%. So, like, there's just so many reasons why it just seems very oddly like shady. And
It
you
is.
know,
Oh, I
now
mean,
that
everything is. You know,
now the
but it's
conspiracy is creeping in, like where
Right.
before I was like, I really wanted to stay away from it because I was like, you know, whether it's a conspiracy or not, it can be a high risk to a lot of people. And
right.
now, you know, you're seeing, and then especially because people who are getting it and recovering typically aren't getting it again, they won't be able to say that, you know, officially for until like December 2018 by the studies. But the the reality is that's pretty much the analyzed truth right now. And you know, we need the antibody tests and we need them to be ready and easily accessible. And if you like pass an antibody test, like if I was already antibodied, I'd want to be at work tomorrow. You know, I'd
Right.
want to test my family, and if my family didn't pass, I would work, but I wouldn't go home. Like I would go somewhere else. I would get like
Right. Right.
a light rent location somewhere else, or a hotel,
There's people
motel,
doing
whatever I
that
need to
too.
do.
I don't know. It's definitely a topic that I'm sure if we do this again, then we'll be talking more about. You know, because this whole thing kind of stemmed
Yeah.
from the amount of time that we've had to put on something like this. Um, I mean, like I said, I've already talked to a friend of mine about jumping on and doing an episode with us. A good friend of mine, Jim, who was selling art prints to fund his. He was making masks, or not masks, the face shields, and donated over 2,000 handmade face shields to local hospitals, which is just like an incredible use of time, and a very, there's a lot of energy that's put into something like that.
Hell yeah.
Especially selling prints, and the money 100% went towards the creation of these masks. So they definitely be someone good to talk to.
Yeah.
I am
Sounds sick.
interested in coming up with some other type of discussion. I'm sure we'll be we'll talk more about what else we can kind of talk about, and what other kind of people we can maybe have on to talk with us, if this picks up. But yeah, I'd like to talk about the virus and how it affects us. But at the end of the day, like, we all already know.
Yeah.
We're all fucking home, and we're all just playing the waiting game. And
Yep.
only so much we can talk about on that subject. But definitely excited to maybe have Jim on here talking about what he's doing with the shields, which is crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
It makes
That
me
sounds
feel like
awesome.
I'm not doing anything. Like, it makes
Yeah.
me feel like I had the resources and I didn't do it. But
Plus, we've had like, you know, a lot, like there. I'm sure there's a lot of other good things to like delve into. You know, he's got a lot of insight. He's been around for a while with tattooing, so
yeah,
that would
yeah,
work like the tattoo content wise.
yeah.
And even just speaking on like the tattoo end, um, you know, to get to something back, you know, more tattoo related. I think obviously going back, we could, you know, band together to do some sort of, you know, broad flash day, maybe across a few shops or something at the same time to
Yeah.
donate to something, like feeding hungry kids, stuff like that, like people who are really hurting and need food domestically. I think would be a really good cause. So I'd be interested in something, anything involving that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'm stoked on the turnout we had. I appreciate everybody that came through. Wasn't like a totally organized. We didn't know exactly what we were going to say or talk about it 100%. So we're just kind of winging it and rambling, and it's been cool. We had a lot of people coming in and talking
Hell
in the
yeah.
chat, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
much appreciated for everybody in the chat.
A lot of
Remember to
friends,
hit
a lot of
that
friends
follow
and clients
button.
of mine. So it's been cool. And then of course, like, send us messages, let us know what you'd like to talk about next time, what you want to hear us talk about, what you want to who maybe you'd like to see on the show if we can
Or
talk
for
to
the
anybody
artists,
that you
for the
know.
tattoo artists who are in the chat too, like you guys, like will definitely be interested in getting you guys into, and getting like a series like of people in queue to be part of the tattoo, the TatCast here. So
Yeah.
hit us up and we'll be, in contact.
Cool.
Does seem that we'll have some more time. At this point, I've really enjoyed it, so I wouldn't even have an issue of doing like a bi-weekly, like if we did 2 a week, until we go back,
I'm down
because I
whenever.
think that would be super cool.
And they're recorded as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have the VOD. I'm gonna eventually post it to YouTube, and then I'm gonna rip the audio. I'm gonna learn how to do that, so I'll get the audio and get that up, and we'll have it on Apple or any of the major podcast venues, and it'll all be accessible. So that way,
we'll
going
consider
forward,
this
it'll be more of a thing.
Consider it more of a pilot. Maybe have a little bit more structure on the next one, so there's not a lot of I don't know, rambling and kind of pauses and moments. So
yeah, definitely TatCast Alpha, but I think it went well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like we've already, me and Angela had a conversation the other night. That was probably even longer than this one, and already kind of pretty much covered everything we talked about as well. So, and I'd like to talk more about tattooing as well, because I miss tattooing. There's so many stories. Like you just think of them as you're going, and you're like, oh man, like I don't even have the time to talk about that or this and that. I'm a very opinionated person when it comes to tattooing, so I have a lot of information, I have a lot of knowledge, and I have a lot of questions for other people as well. So, yeah, we could start a little bit earlier, too. And,
well, it's tough because with us having the kids, we got to figure out a good time for it. Honestly, for me, like the later time, once the kids are normally asleep, they were up much later than normal tonight, but when they're normally asleep, that's a lot easier for me and a lot better for the audio quality.
And I don't do anything, so I'm always available.
I guess during the day, if it's a nice day out, they play outside most of the day, so we could do it still, and I could be inside for that time, so we could work it out. But yeah, cool. I definitely maybe next time we'll cover some more of the things that like also got us into tattooing that we touched on, like when we talk, like I touched on like tattoo age or Hori Smoku, things like that. Maybe we'll we'll announce what we're going to talk about, put out the links to those types of things so people can watch them and enjoy them, and then we can all like come together and discuss certain aspects or things about it, because every time I watch them I pull something new from it anyway. So
and this podcast could also be I've had a lot of people coming to me recently, a lot of people that I know that are interested in getting into tattooing. As much as I, tell people and firmly believe that we are an incredibly saturated industry, there is no better information to get than things like this, because this is information. Maybe we're not telling you how to do tattoos, but this is information coming from actual tattooers, actual people that lived normal lives and somehow got into this crazy world. And if that's the world that you're trying to get into, I mean, at least hear how we did it, be interested in how we did it, and use that as information for yourselves. Because this is resources that are priceless to people like you that want to get into tattooing. So, I mean, this could be good for all sorts of different people.
Hell yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think eventually I have no problem covering like some of the minor parts of the technical aspects when we have guests on and stuff that we normally don't have in the shop, like where we can kind of like delve into a little bit of, little tips and tricks that might probably things more that wouldn't really relate to someone who's just trying to learn, that they wouldn't really be able to pick up or really understand. But yeah, I'm always interested in discussing any of it. I don't think that I want to close the dialogue on like how it's conducted or the art process or any of that. So yeah, I think it's pretty transparent at this point how people are going about making the art and doing tattoos. So
depending on how our viewer base would form, and if it's mostly tattooer, if it's mostly clients, if it's mostly artists or whatever, we could do if we're doing this bi-weekly, one night could be organized and one night could be a Q&A.
Yeah,
One I
that'd
could be
be sick.
completely open to the chat and just have people on there asking questions or talking, and have it more casual. And then other ones would be, more for recording and sticking to kind of like a script and just having certain things that we want to talk about.
Yeah, I like
So,
that. And like we can easily bring people in a Discord too. Like as far as
Yeah.
like a viewer could hop
Yeah.
in a Discord and right off their phone just chat with us real quick. So we'll get that done.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing, Daryl. That's a thing. That's a real thing. Is doing the line work when you go back.
Yeah.
It's yeah. No, it's.
I think I would recommend to most artists hit that 11, hit that 14, send that shit, and then we'll get back to other stuff.
Start bold. Start bold. Use your favorite machine. Use your true your daily runner. Like,
I think before we open, we ought to have a day where we just go in to set up and like all just tattoo each other anyway. Like
I'm
just to
gonna
like do a little zip zap.
I'm gonna let the Dan Cuban rest for maybe a couple weeks.
Oh, I'll take
and
that
just,
then.
And then just
I'll take it.
And just set up a coil and just
you know that thing loves me.
Start it real low and then slowly turn it up. And I'm not hanging the needle as far as I'm used to. I'm gonna ride the tube for a good couple weeks. I'm gonna ride the tube with a nice 11 liner for a couple weeks and then see what's up. But yeah, definitely fun, definitely cool.
Word.
Well, and I'm also gonna try to get my setup a little bit more official. I had to order some things through Best Buy and was waiting in like their curbside pickup. And then he told me to go and order it online and then get back in line. And then it wasn't going to be ready till like next weekend or something like that. And then I was looking for my webcam and couldn't find that. So I had to set it up on my phone. So people have been messaging me on my phone. Like I can't see, the messages. And I can't, tell people that I'm live if I'm using the phone as a webcam. So I'm going to have everything a little bit more set up. So I'm not like looking up because my phone's down here. I'm going to have everything a little bit more official, hopefully get like, sound quality up and everything. So everything's a little bit better for everybody. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see how we progress with the quality and on top of that, like the development on my end with like overlays or things like that.
Yeah, everything set up nice and really have it kind of official. Be able to, post about it on our Instagrams. I'll probably be making, some sort of snippet or commercial or saying, like, hey, check out a new episode. It's going to be posted this time or live at this time. So I'll be posting a lot more, when we actually have the idea. This was a very last minute thing. We've been talking about it, but no one else knew about it for a while. I talked about it a little bit yesterday on my Instagram live, but I didn't have much information about it. So
yeah, and you can always go in on my Twitch. The VOD will be up, so you can look at it and clip whatever you want, Bryant. And you can, if you make the clip, I'm pretty sure you can download the clip yourself even. And then once you download the clip, you can actually upload it to Instagram from the computer too, or you can just email it to your phone, like to yourself, open it, download it on your phone, and upload it. So I've actually done that a couple times already, and it's really not difficult. Yeah, and Dennis is in the chat, dude. Thank you for coming through. I was like, we need at least the three of us to make it work, so we did it.
I'd like to try to get the other members of the Edge Tattoo in here.
Yep. We're gonna try to
Megan Boyle Tattoo and Aftermath Tattoo are Nick. Might be a little bit harder to get those two on here.
It'll happen.
But I mean, there's one that'd probably be harder than the other, but we'll make it happen. Because a lot of insight with those two. That's the tattooer that works with us that's been tattooing the least amount of time and is the newest to tattooing, and the tattooer that's been tattooing the most amount of time and has had more experience with clientele and stories and stuff like that. So to get them on and seeing both their point of view, me, Angelo, and Dennis are sitting kind of in the middle. As tattooers that have been tattooing for, roughly around the same. And then Megan's been tattooing about a year now, and Nick for about 15 or 16 years.
Yeah, 16,
so he's got a lot of information and a lot of, but definitely different takes, a lot of different opinions from him. So it'd be cool to have on here.
Hell yeah, it'll be
A
good.
little more,
We'll get
a little
him in.
more laid back. Once you hit that certain point in tattooing, he's very, you know, eh, tattooing is just what he does, and he's just. I don't think he has many opinions on it anymore. I think it's just like to hear maybe some laid back point of views, and more carefree point of views might change things up a little bit. So
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming out, Bryant. And
yeah,
I think
thank
this is the
you.
point to call it.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody for watching TatCast episode 1. Means a lot to us.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been
you, guys.
something we've talked about
Thank you,
legit
guys. Yeah.
forever. So good looks on everybody. And I hope you all have a great night. And hopefully, stay tuned. We'll either be back midweek this week or next week this time. And we'll be posting more about it and much more forward. So yeah, thank you again. And have a great
Be
night.
safe. Yeah.
Peace out.